Good morning. Welcome in to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Well done, Shano.
Oh, you can keep talking. I was just giving him a slow clap.
That was well deserved.
It's pretty good.
Good stuff there. I appreciate
motivated.
that.
Shoot, I need that.
I feel like I'm ready to go knock some heads.
Wish I was. It's bittersweet. Right? We leave early, and we've got I've thought about this all week just because was waiting the last minute to get the travel roster and kind of get that schedule done.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first high school game that I will miss, non-COVID related, in 19 years.
Holy cow.
19.
I didn't realize it'd been that long.
Yeah. So.
And you've been coaching that whole time?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. 19 of them. Just did not.
Couldn't get it to work out.
No. He had a really good plan. Thought about it all summer.
Yeah.
Ready to execute it. But since we've had a few shakeups in the booth potentially.
Sure.
We had to plan ahead, and I've got to get there early to test some things out. So it is. I needed to be motivated.
Yeah,
that's a bit. I'm with you, Shane, because your boy. I'm in a weird spot.
Sure. Yeah, right? I would imagine.
Right. Big one tonight against Central, and sometimes you got to take one for the team.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you got your guy Queen.
I do.
They'll be there.
I do. I asked. Stead. We have. I won't say too much, but I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'm positive those guys will. The question is, will
you be okay?
Will I be okay?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're ready to go, man. It was a good week, and I think Nebraska's had a good week.
That's what Coach Rule said.
My favorite line, maybe all week, and there's been some doozies.
Yeah.
Is when MJ Sherman said, "Next time,
put your hands up."
Put your hands up.
That's a T-shirt right there. Next time, put your hands up.
Right, like I'm all in. I'm very excited to see how they'll respond.
You know why you like that?
Why?
Because that's a solution.
Yeah, right. 100%.
Right. It's not abstract.
No, it's not. Man, he hit me.
Yeah, it's like, I'll try not to get hit again. It's like, no,
man, put your hands up. Yeah, put your hands up. That's 100.
You want to not get hit again? Put your hands up.
That's 100% why I like that.
And it was no nonsense too.
Yeah, so even the little details, and I go back to something Coach Rule said last year when he wanted to, what's the word I'm looking for? He wanted to fine tune and prune a lot of the things, right? The move into the new facility and to streamline that process and to get everything centrally located. And he said something like, he said, we don't even know how to travel. We'll get better at that too. And it's just kind of something you're like, oh, you charter and it goes like this and it looks pretty smooth. But there's a way that he wants to do it. Even the tenor of the information for the travel parties and how we're doing it and the organization in which we're doing it and when we've got to be even that is, it's not intense, but it is very
intentional.
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
It's just very no nonsense. You could just tell the vibe is one of business. And I mean, even little things that weren't said last year in the travel information for the groups and stuff. They're not playing around.
Yeah. Leave nothing to the imagination.
Nope. And if all else fails, read.
Yeah.
And they'll communicate it again. So I think they're looking forward to this one. I think this is how they want to do business. I think they're looking at away games as business trips. And they want to be as efficient as possible. That's across the board. So I'm very same Disneyland.
So you said the kind of business trip a couple times there, and I feel like the tone of the press conferences this week has reflected that. But I wonder almost, because a couple weeks ago, you go back to Colorado, right? It felt much more, I don't know, not loose necessarily, but there was more, I guess, joy, emotion. Maybe there was more. I'm not sure what word I'm looking for, but it felt different.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder. There's a part of me that wonders, like, hey, if that's a luxury you only get when you win, in the sense of, like, hey, you can have fun playing this game, but after you take care of business. We didn't take care of business last week, so now it's back to work.
Yeah,
Right? Like, does that kind of make sense?
it does. It does. I mean, it's a mindset,
Yeah.
right?
Because you can get too loosey goosey, right?
Yeah, but it's definitely a mindset.
Yeah. It's just it's. I noticed that, especially with Coach Rule yesterday, right?
Yeah.
He was very, like, straight to the point, straightforward. Not a lot, sometimes he's kind of laughs a little bit during his press conferences, not really making jokes, but he kind of laughs at the way he says at the way he himself says things sometimes. And not a lot of that yesterday. It
Yeah.
was pretty no nonsense.
He is, yeah, and I
which I don't mind, but it was different.
I will be interested to see how it manifests itself.
Yeah.
Right, because the vibe around I've asked. I mean, just fortunate enough to build relationships with folks over the last handful of years, doing this with the Big Ten and now the network.
Mm-hmm.
The vibe around West Lafayette is not good.
Yeah.
So, will they will they put their hands up,
mm-hmm.
or are they looking at this as like
inevitability?
No, like,
okay.
We got a chance to get one.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We
could get Nebraska while they're down.
And I don't mean put your hands up like MJ Sherman. I mean put your hands up and
wave the white flag.
Wave the white
That's
flag.
where I got confused.
I surrender.
Yeah. Okay.
So, like that, I will be very curious. Again, as their homecoming,
yeah,
they got to pick the time slot. I was working on this with Keith, Captain Man, since I don't know, since both schedules came out.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the one that didn't have a time.
Yeah.
And so we're going way back into the summer because it was the only quote unquote conflict
mm-hmm.
that I had. And he's like, well, they'll have to announce early, it's their choice for. So they wanted the 12 Eastern slot.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what they chose. I do think it will be sold out. There'll be a ton of Nebraska fans.
Yeah. My question is, did they want, because I think this matters, and maybe I'm overthinking this. Wouldn't be the first time. But did they want the 11 o'clock time slot because they thought that was going to be their best opportunity in terms of atmosphere and home field advantage and things like that? Or it is homecoming weekend. Did they want the noon Eastern time slot so they could get the game over with and get on with the rest of their day?
Yeah.
Because administration thinks that way sometimes, right? It's like, oh, we got a whole slate of things. We got a bunch of people in town. We have to get to the rest of our stuff. And if that's the case, probably not a great sign for Purdue. But I don't know.
So, there's no way they could have foreseen weather. So it's not that.
No, for sure. Because they picked this way before Helene was on the whatever. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Although it is advantageous that's earlier now.
Yeah.
Because you might get out before the weather hits you.
So it's I should just show you the itinerary note. Like, it is so buttoned up. And even the side notes, like, hey, do this, don't do this, let's expedite this, let's make sure. Those are all things that weren't previous.
I like that, though.
So do I.
Like, that fits my personality.
So that's what I was going to say. That's what I would do.
Because if I don't have to ask a question about what I'm supposed to do, I love it.
Maybe not 18 or 19 or 20 or 21-year-old me.
Yeah.
But certainly mean, like,
100%.
this is ideal.
Like, give me every detail.
Yep, it's how we run our program.
Yeah.
Listen, you want to know where you're at on special teams this week at our school? Check the dry erase board. We started on Tuesday. We'll mess with it on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Final copy will be up in the morning. See it. You want to know what time where the bus leaves? You want to know what time breakfast is? Check the board.
Yeah.
Like, that's how it should be.
Yeah. That's what I mean, and again, I don't you mentioned, I don't know if younger me would want it that way, but now that I'm an adult, kind of, I really want to just be able to look at all the information and not have to ask any follow-ups.
And it kind of lets you know,
because there's no room for interpretation there.
And it kind of lets you know what the vibe is going to be. And I'm not saying, you got to pucker up and you can't be but it's like most coaches. And we'll talk to Coach Williams, and Thursday night game, and I'm sure at some point when it's like reporting time, like it's time to change gears.
Yeah, to like lock in.
Right.
So
it's
you're like, oh, it's all fun and games. Now let's lock in.
Now we're only talking about 36 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll have, knock on wood, we'll have landed tomorrow by this time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that 36 hours? No, what's 24 plus 12? Yeah, 36 hours.
Yeah.
So, like, it's quick.
Yeah.
And it goes fast. And this is a big one. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't look at it any other way. Lincoln Lance asked yesterday, in full disclosure, like it kind of made me mad, but it was more internal, right? I wasn't mad at him because it was a legit question. He said something about, he's going back, he's listening to the show. He goes, I was surprised to see you so quickly to respond that you wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska went 8-4.
Yeah, I saw that.
And my initial response,
because he said 6-6 in the stream.
Oh, did he? So the stream got away from me yesterday.
Yeah, it was active. I missed a bunch of stuff, but I did see. I think it's Lincoln Lance. There was a Lance in the stream that said 6-6.
So I thought about it, and his response was, I can't help but to look at the schedule. And I said, well, go back and listen to the question.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He asked me if I would be surprised. No, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be more surprised if they didn't, because that was even with the early loss, right? But I also didn't think that they would be 7-0 heading into Columbus anyway. So I didn't know where it would come from or how it was going to look or whatever. But the one thing I'm confident about is they'll be better. Now, I don't know if it'll be good enough, but I do feel they'll be better tomorrow than they were on Friday.
Mm-hmm. This is why I brought up that whole scenario with you about would you be surprised if they went 8-4? Would you be surprised if Illinois went 8-4? Like, that's a game that's supposed to go to overtime. That's why I brought that up, because I think, and I don't think Lincoln Lance is alone here.
No, you basically pulled a me where, you walked me into it, by asking me
I walked you where I wanted you to go.
The previous questions, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised.
And so I think and the reason I brought it up is I think there's a lot of people like Lincoln Lance that after the Illinois game are thinking closer to 6-6. Like they see a lot of problems.
Well, you know what's going to compound that?
What's that?
Is Penn State could easily curb stomp Illinois.
They could.
So that's why I was talking about that on Monday. I was like, 17.5. I thought it should be 7.5. And now I'll be ready for these.
Yeah.
Well, they're not this, or
Illinois is not actually not that good. But I
mean, we scared ourselves more into Indiana after we saw UCLA play LSU a little tougher.
Yeah. It's like, well, maybe they just played a little better.
Yeah, but here's the thing that we miss in all of the transitive, even if it's like in your subconscious.
Yeah.
Because we score watch, and Coach Lamanji just buried us last week about not paying attention to other teams, comparing scores. He said, I don't care if it's on social media, like whatever, right? I mean, anyway. What happens is you just do it on accident.
Yeah.
Like it's just what we
subconsciously, because you watch a lot of games.
And what we forget is what you forget if you're actually competing is sometimes it's about matchups, right? There are certain teams that I rather play as a guy that is on the defensive side of the ball that may not be as good perception-wise as other teams. And there may be some other teams I'm like, oh, people think they're pretty good. And I'm like, well, I'd rather play them.
Yeah, it's a good matchup for us, though, right?
Or where it hits on the schedule, or emotional highs and lows. And
I mean, we talk about this with basketball all the time. I don't know why.
But it's the one thing I think we forget. It's
in football for sure.
That's why I don't love schedule talk. And I get it. It has to happen because this is what it is, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be some party foul buzzkill, but I just sometimes I roll my eyes. I'm like, you don't know who's healthy, you don't know who's hurt. Like,
you're assuming a lot of things.
Emotional. Could I tell Friday that there's a definite disdain from Illinois and towards Nebraska with Bielema? Yeah. Like you can clearly tell.
Yeah.
the dude was locked. Like, he just doesn't like Nebraska.
The same way
And
you could tell with
and he
Nebraska against Colorado.
and he even said it in the post. Well, you guys are supposed to be pretty good, and well, was Illinois?
Yeah.
Were we for real? And I think our guys were pissed. But like, you don't get that emotional edge every week because you can't manufacture it.
Correct.
Right? It either is or it isn't.
Exactly.
So that's why it just, this one for me sets up kind of nice, and it doesn't have anything to do with Purdue.
Yeah. It's about where Nebraska.
I don't think Nebraska liked anything about what happened this week. I don't think they liked the extra day to think about it. I don't think they liked the media sessions. I don't think they liked talking.
Yeah.
In general, I think they were very demanding on themselves. So they kind of, I think they elevated their preparation because they had a painful benchmark to compare it to. You just hope that you don't have to. Well, I'm serious, right? You just hope it doesn't have to come to that.
Yeah, you would love it because we talk about this all the time, right?
But it did have to come to that. So that's why I'm super looking forward to see. And listen, Purdue's won 4 out of the last 6, and I get it. None of that's been on.
No, that's on Coach Rule's watch.
None of that's on Coach Rule's watch.
Like,
well, the one is, but
there is.
Didn't we beat them last year?
Yeah,
31-14.
Yeah, beat Purdue last year.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of transitive property, like you said, that goes on that we don't even mean to.
It's super subconscious.
Because, and you're right, we don't talk about all the other factors, matchups, emotions, where teams are coming off of. Like Illinois, I think I said this earlier in the week. Illinois looked at Nebraska the way Nebraska looked at Colorado. Maybe not quite to the same level, but Nebraska clearly had an emotional edge against Colorado, right? Would you think so?
Yes.
I mean, that's right. Like,
yes.
I thought Illinois clearly had an emotional edge against Nebraska last week.
It turned out that way. I don't know I don't want to be like,
I don't want to do revisionist history, but I can show you text.
I don't know if I felt like that going in.
I could show you text between me and my buddy as the game was starting. They were like, vibe feels weird. I don't know what it was, but there was just something, and maybe it was because it was the late arriving crowd because of Friday night. I don't know.
Well, this one was a little different. So for me, normally, and blame it on me if you're superstitious, I didn't do my whole normal pregame thing because it was obviously a shakeup.
Yeah,
internally.
With the booth. Yeah.
So, like, it was just different, right? And I wasn't able, whatever. So I wasn't on the field as much as I normally am. So I didn't have a good feel. Yeah. I normally I do, but I didn't have a good feel. I didn't watch Illinois on the field at all, which almost never happens. Like, I always check out opponent's vibe.
Yeah.
So I don't want to sit here and tell you like, yeah, it felt different.
For sure they had emotional edge or whatever. Yeah. I just felt like in the stadium, because I don't go down on the field and for an extended period of time or anything. I kind of take it in for a second, then head upstairs. But like, I just felt like in the stadium, I don't know if that was coming from the team or if it was coming from the fans.
Yeah.
That from the jump, it just felt a little weird. Very easily could have just been the Friday game. Lincoln in general felt kind of weird, kind of driving in. It didn't seem as close to game time as we were getting. It didn't seem as busy as it should be. I don't know if people, just were still working till their normal 5 o'clock or whatever it was, but I thought it felt strange. And that's a factor. Like, things like that are factors. So when you go into Ross Aid tomorrow and you're trying to figure out, okay, what's the vibe of this Purdue team? That's going to matter. The same way the vibe of the Illinois team against Penn State tomorrow is going to matter. And you can't just say, oh, well, Penn State beat their heads in, so obviously Illinois is not very good. I mean, do we think Notre Dame's any good or no? Because they lost to Northern Illinois, and it'd be really easy just to write that whole thing off. And then Northern Illinois goes and loses to Buffalo, so we can't say, oh, we think Northern Illinois is pretty good anymore, right? We sit there and go, oh, is Notre Dame good? I don't know. Did they just have a bad day?
Does that mean Colorado would beat Notre Dame now?
I think it must, right? No, right? No, it doesn't, right? I think I would pick Notre Dame to beat the life out of Colorado. And so we do this thing where, like, Notre Dame's coming off a big win. They have an upset against Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois coming off a big win. They have this upset. They lose to Buffalo. Like, obviously, there is some gaps in the transitive property that we can't account for. Otherwise, this game would be pretty easy to
Matchups,
figure out.
emotions. There's lots.
Matchups, I mean, just, when you're dealing with people, there's going to be variables there, right? There's not there's famously not robots.
Terry Bradshaw was at the A's game.
Oh, yeah?
I'm just kidding. He just looks like
Oh,
Terry
yeah.
Bradshaw.
I was
they
like,
keep showing that guy. And
I was like,
that
why is Terry Bradshaw
that
at the
has
A's
to be
game?
a mask.
Yeah, we'll get. I do want to get to the A's later here because that was I found that weirdly emotional yesterday. But we'll
I think it's a little disingenuous that the fans rewarded the team for a franchise that clearly does not want what's best for that team. But anyway,
100%. We can get to Oakland later. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk to Tim Williams. He's the head coach at Papillion-LaVista. They got a big win against Prep last night. 8 o'clock, we've got Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska. 9 o'clock, Mike Sautter from Hurrdat Sports and NAB Preps, and we wrap up the show and the week as we always do with Matt Vrzal, former Husker and owner of Paisan's Pizzeria. That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, right after this. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Got to start playing some championship football.
Yeah,
learn how to win anymore. Play championship football.
I need to take a page out of the Storm Chasers book.
Man, so I was out there last night. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was a pretty good time.
I sent Chris a picture. We were still in meetings. It was almost 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
I was like,
fudge. And this is a weird thing. This had nothing to do with the actual game. So I really appreciated. So they're wearing the powder blue Omaha,
which are so sweet,
elite, and they're wearing the old school.
I told Marty this. I said, "Yeah, you need to wear those more often."
Yeah. Well, I bet they wear them Saturday because they didn't wear them on Tuesday. They lost.
I don't understand. So they did all that partying last night to bounce today?
Yeah. So that's like the pennant, basically.
No. I'm saying, right. But they're leaving.
Yeah. Well, the game's Saturday. They have to leave today.
Oh, those guys are going to be smoked.
It's going to be a fun time on the plane.
They probably should be asleep.
I know, they need to be asleep. Got to sleep on the plane. But with those powder blues, they wear the old school script Omaha Royals hats, which are the Omaha Royals hats of my childhood. So I actually bought one yesterday from the storefront.
Yeah.
Because it was very nostalgic for me to see those hats.
And you love a good hat.
I love a good hat, and I love I love anything that reminds me of baseball in my youth. When I was a kid, I loved baseball. It was by far my favorite sport. And so, whether
that's where you thought you were going to be Juan Marichal, right?
Pedro Martinez was my guy, but
same difference.
Same idea. What, Dominican kid playing for Boston? There were no Indian kids at the time I could look at, so we gotta,
It had the $1 million arm thing come out yet?
No, that was a little after. I was out of college by the time that came out.
Dang, I get all my dates screwed up.
That's all right, but it was I like anything that, whether it's Ken Griffey, Baseballism has the whole Ken Griffey line that I'm obsessed with, and seeing the Scripto Omaha hats again, I was like, oh, I got to get one of those. Those are I remember Johnny Damon playing in Omaha,
and it looked like a pretty good crowd, right?
It wasn't bad. I didn't see a number, but it was
30, 35, maybe 36.
Yeah, I think they might have topped 3. I know that's what Marty was shooting for.
I could have been in the suite too.
I know. It was pretty cool up there.
What'd you eat?
You're gonna get mad at me.
Of course. Oh God.
So I didn't eat any real food. Do you want to guess what I had?
Cheez-Its.
No cheese.
No on this ding dong. Probably Cracker Jacks.
Nope, not a Cracker Jack guy.
What?
I got a funnel cake.
You're such a child. Do you know how good the food is there?
I know.
And you go with a funnel cake.
Listen, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's what I want. I saw the stand.
You're incredible.
I was like, oh, that's what I want right there. So I didn't even get a hot dog, and I love hot dogs.
A funnel cake.
I was craving a funnel cake bad. I was like, I need it.
They were out of cotton candy?
Cotton candy's only okay. It's all right, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to get cotton candy. I'll go out of my way to get a funnel cake.
Wow.
And then, of course, I choked on the powdered sugar like you always do. Worth it. 100% worth it.
Fudge.
No, Chris and our guy Andy went and got some tacos from the Papio taco guy who like sets up shop out there. You might have liked those. They were like brisket tacos. They look pretty solid. That kind of seemed like up your alley, but
a lot more than funnel.
I knew you. See, I told you weren't gonna like the funnel cakes.
I just don't get it.
I didn't. They kept trying to tell me I was gonna regret my choices. They're eating like brisket tacos. I was like, I feel great about my decision.
I'm Team Gorman on this one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I might have been in the minority there, but I felt all right.
Of course you were.
There was a kid.
Were you waiting around in like the fifth inning? Were you like, oh boy, this isn't good? And then all of a sudden it was like party time or what?
Yeah. So I was a little worried early because they got down 2-0 almost. I think that's premature, bud. They got down.
See, it's a great thing I don't have joke Tourette's. That what I was going to say was definitely going to get me kicked off. Wow. Normally, Shane, you don't get a chance to bottle that and get it back. Anyway.
Yeah, they got down early, and it was a little bit of a hit parade.
Wait, you mean that stuff works? Yes, Shane.
That's exactly right.
I know, Seth. I know.
Yeah, a little bit of a hit parade for Columbus there, and I was like, ooh, I'm not feeling great. But Columbus was out of arms. They were going through pitchers like crazy. And then Omaha's catcher, his name is escaping me right now, 33, hit an absolute
piss rocket
tank. It was that ball. I mean, you want to talk like Moneyball, like the ball explodes off his bat.
Yeah.
That thing, I thought a bomb went off. That thing exploded off. And it got out in a hurry. And the kid next to us, there was a kid in the suite next to us that goes, hit a piss missile. And I
didn't even know that when I just said
that's why I wasn't even going to say it, but I was like, I have to now. Because then I was telling people about
how old was he?
He like 10.
Oh, so he must have some old baseball heads.
I think his dad's an old baseball head.
Like
that, the way his dad was dressed, I was like, that guy played some high level baseball. Like he had the look, right,
and the terminology, right?
Yes, because that's a baseball guy thing.
Yeah, 100%.
And I was cracking up.
I remember sometimes like Coach Olsen, this is so vulgar, kind of, but it's like, when you get that fastball, you just got to turn around and just piss on it.
See, that's what we used to say.
And I was just like, what is that even? First of all,
if you did that ball's not going anywhere.
And I didn't use that term.
Yeah.
I still don't use that term.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, that's interesting.
That's what we used to say is, oh man, he pissed on that one. And it doesn't make any sense. Like
I have no idea.
There's absolutely,
but he would say that.
And then it went
he'd have the little residue around his lips.
Little resin.
I just wanted to take like a little napkin and just
dab
that up, get that off the old corner.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but this kid, he was like 10, and he was. But yeah, they were the Storm Chasers got after a little bit and opened that thing up. Had a couple big innings and kind of cruised on the way home. It was a good time.
Kind of like the Dodgers when they were wheeling in their drinks.
I didn't actually go hang out in the clubhouse.
Man, you should have. I wonder if Jersh tied one on.
Oh, it seems like he might have.
How about coming around for that guy?
For Jersh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's pretty good.
Not bad. I mean, he's been doing this a while. He's been pretty good at it.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can get a national title knocked out tomorrow against Sugarland.
Vegas.
Yeah. Out in Vegas.
Like having to get up and get the cakeets, the little eye crumbles out of your eye, and shower up and get on that flight.
It's a good thing most of those guys.
It's chartered though, so I think they're straight.
It's a good thing most of the guys are pretty young because
sometimes you got to turn it around.
Like at 37, I'm not bouncing back.
No,
I mean, maybe by tomorrow, but
maybe
not in time for a flight today. Maybe it's like an afternoon flight.
I got some of our coaches on our staff that say that now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
So you didn't get a chance to watch Papio Prep last night?
I didn't. I was watching Cowboys Giants on my phone.
Yeah. Game of Game of inches.
I was keeping up with our guy Padilla, who was stringing it.
The score was extremely misleading
because that was close for a really long time.
And it was like
and then you had the pick six, right?
Yeah, so the pick six kind of got the party started. But Prep had, on the ensuing drive, put one together. Had a guy wide open.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he mistimed his jump.
Oh.
Or what, right? Didn't come down with it. And then ended up getting kind of first down and flipped the field going into the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
And or the third, Pomeran gets a post.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that dude's pretty good.
Yeah.
Then he turns around, and Prep's driving. So they go for two, so it's 15-13. Prep's driving, so they run like this layered route tight end. So they got a tight end underneath and behind.
Mm.
Both are open. Air matted a little.
Oh.
Pomeran's right in the middle. He picks it.
Yeah.
And returns this thing like 65 yards, and then they're in business. It was like, it went from like a one-score thing to like, I don't think they can score now.
So it got out of hand in a hurry.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about that Papio win coming up next with Tim Williams, head coach of Papillion-LaVista. Wrapping up hour number one with Coach's Corner here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's D-Beat. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by head coach of Papillion-LaVista, Tim Williams. Coach, how are you this morning?
I'm great. It's a great day to wake up. I'll tell you that much. How are you guys?
I'll say, yeah, you're
there's that guy. It's great to talk to you because for whatever the reason, you'll come up on the show a couple of handful of times, and I always say the same thing. You know, one of the things I like about him, he's pretty confident, and I love the fact that when Shane sent the message, we're like, hey, let's get Coach Williams. And you responded right away. And I thought about it. I was like, shoot, they play on Thursday. Oh, he responded quick. He couldn't care less. Like, he's ready to roll, win or lose. Let's go, man. That thing last night, you're right. That thing turned on a dime, man. And, man, did you guys pounce.
Well, first off, I want to make sure you understand that now that you've said that I responded right away, my boss would probably be a little bit upset with the fact that I was texting in class.
Oh, I didn't say what time it was.
I think it was before school started. Yeah, definitely.
Hey, man, glad you're up I'm glad you're up and at him at 6:10. Tim. I mean, that's fantastic, Coach.
Let's go with that. Let's go with that one. Yeah, I like that. You know what? I absolutely felt confident going into that game last night. I was concerned about what Creighton Prep does. Coach Young does a great job over there. Their defense is, I thought played well against Northwest the week before, and I was a little bit concerned about that, but I felt really good about where we were, and more specifically, I felt really good about our defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our defense has been playing really, really well. Obviously, we got some things to clean up, but man, the play that Trey Richardson made for us on that pick six really did finally get our guys sparked to where they should be at the start of a game. And so I was just really, really happy for Trey and for the boys last night.
Let me ask you something, Coach. And listen, you're not in the excuse business, but generally speaking, when you're playing at like a neutral site, and we've all kind of had to do it. Has that been different for you when it's neither team's real home field and folks got to travel, or is it just one of those things for you like where the crowds are the crowds and it is what it is?
I think it is what it is. It's always tough to play at Omaha Northwest because of the fact that there's really no locker room for you.
Yeah.
So the experience in and of itself is different because you can go in the little box that they give you, but you got so many kids, so we just go over in the trees and you do that. So that experience is a little bit different for our kids because that's out of their norm. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that it is what it is to me, to answer your question.
With Trey's pick, and Prep it was such a game, maybe not inches, but probably more yards. They missed the pass on the boot. Maybe it was a mistimed jump. I don't know. Then on the boot on the pick, after you guys hit the post, which I'm gonna get to that in a second, because do you have, All right, let me just start with the post because that he scored for, and he's fantastic. I just was talking about him before the break, but your commitment to run the ball was clearly there. How'd you know you wanted to take the shot with the post? Was it their safety getting down into the box, or you just like, it's time, I'm on the 30-some yard line? Like, what went into the decision to take a shot with the post?
It's funny that you asked that question, because for the last 2 years we played prep, excuse me, and they bring that weak side safety down into the box all the time. In the last 2 years, we have hit them with a backside post for a touchdown the last 2 years. And so the fact that we were able to go in to get our running game going, bringing that guy back into the box, was one of those things that said we need to take a shot. And we took the shot. I don't necessarily tell them when to take a shot. I just said, hey, we need to take a shot. And offensive staff said, let's do it. And they took a shot with that play, and there it was. And I think that safety coming down the box helps out a ton. And Pamaran is a dude, and to be honest, that Cam Leggett, that throw was perfect.
Yeah, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall to just watching Leggett for so long. I know he's excitable and super competitive, and Palmer, like that's probably the right way to say it, right? Like,
yeah, I like that.
Okay, we'll go with that. But Pomeroy, he's just a football player. Like, there's not a lot. Like, he could probably play guard for you. You ask him to play tackle, he could probably do that. I don't know if he can snap, but he just seems like it's a high level football player.
His IQ is extremely high.
It's got to be.
It's weird because you know this, Damon, coaching. Kids don't necessarily watch football anymore.
Yeah.
But this kid does. This kid understands the game, and he's a field general out there, because when he's out playing defense, when he's out on offense, he's constantly giving feedback to us on the sideline that is so helpful. He's invaluable.
When Pomerant, when he makes the play on the pick, did you see both tight ends come open? And I'm sure that's one of those, depending on what side of the fence you're on, you're like, Coach Young's probably saying, oh, we left one out there. And you're like, well, sometimes you just got to make a play. Right about then, were you thinking, okay, we can take control of this game physically?
100%. 100%. I already knew our D-line was completely starting to wear their offensive line down. And on that interception to Pamaran, he did get the bootleg out, but he had a lot of guys in his face as he was throwing it too. So he was scrambling, and our D line did force him to throw, I think, probably when he didn't want to.
Yeah.
So, and I think that helped a ton. But you're right. We had two guys wide open.
Coach, I got to ask, did you give Isaac a little bit of a hard time for not being able to unhitch the trailer and get that thing to the end zone?
Well, he had just housed the post, so he probably was like, man, I'm tired.
You give him a little forgiveness because it was kind of back-to-back 70-yarders there, or you're like, hey, bud, I need you to finish that one next time?
You know what? I don't give that kid that much crap, because I don't want him mad at me. To be honest with you, I just don't want him mad at me.
So this has been a heck of a year for you. I told the story, and sometimes it comes up on NEB preps during the week, but I loved your kind of your bounce and your spirit, your disposition when I saw you at Summer League out at Millard West. And I told the guys, I said, quietly, I think he feels like he's got a pretty good team, right? I mean, you don't just walk over to a guy and say, man, we'd have ran the ball on you guys. Why didn't more teams try to run the ball on you? And I'm thinking, I'm like, well, shoot. All right. Well, good to see you, Coach. Right. But I know your personality, so that didn't surprise me. I actually like that. But I could get the sense that you kind of like this team going into this year.
Yeah, I feel really good. I got to tell you that, I'm a figurehead. I'm the head coach, but the assistant coaches on my staff, they work so hard from like late January till, all the way through the season. It's the amount of time that they put into our kids to get stronger, to get faster, to work on their agility. We're working on mental toughness. We wake up, do mat drills in the morning at 6 a.m. and in the cold, and And so we're constantly working on getting our kids to be mentally stronger, physically stronger. And then you know how it comes with winning. With winning comes confidence, and when they start believing, any type of kid, when kids start to believe, man, they're tough. And I think that's where our kids are. And coming into, when I talked to you back at Millard West that day, I got to be honest with you, I felt really good about where our kids were.
Yeah, they look good on the hoof too. So obviously the and I know I've said this for the last couple of years, but you made the decision kind of last year to go young. And it seems to be paying dividends because on the fly, man, they look good getting off the bus.
Yeah, we do. We try to make that our number one priority, is to look as good as you can getting off the bus.
How about the old school unis? Whose design was that? That has to be an old head.
That was mine. Now the white cap is new this year. That's a cap. It's not. We don't have West Side money, Damon.
Well, there he is. Wow.
So what we do is we bought those helmets again, and we can switch them in and out. So it was good. The kids really liked it. They kind of fit what they want. So
wow, touche, Coach.
Coach, speaking of West Side, you've got your schedule doesn't get any easier. You go at Millard South next week. You've got Central, Fremont at home. Then you go at West Side to wrap up the season.
Our district, they didn't do us any favors.
They really didn't do you any favors. How are you keeping your guys locked in as the stretch run comes up here?
There's a saying that our kids have said since the summer. We had Kevin Kuss came in and spoke to a lot of our kids this summer and talked about some things. And one of the things he said was, "What an opportunity!" And it really sunk into our kids' minds about what an opportunity that we get to play in one of the toughest districts and go out and compete against some of the best teams. And that's kind of my mindset moving forward. And we've got Millard South, and that's not an easy task. I mean, they're very, very talented and very, very good. Central's very talented, very good. You guys got them tonight, Westside.
Yeah,
don't you?
We do.
Yeah, and then Fremont, they're 2-2, and Westside is always tough. So what an opportunity! What an opportunity for our boys.
Coach, I can hear the passion, man. You know I know you bring it every single season, man. Best wishes to you.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on, and good luck tonight.
Thank you, buddy.
That's Tim Williams, head coach of Papillion-LaVista. We'll be back with Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Tim Verghese from inside Nebraska. Tim, how are you this morning?
Hey, not too bad. I heard y'all's conversation yesterday about disruptive defensive linemen specifically. Have y'all seen Jalen Carter this season?
Oh, monster.
Yeah.
So he showed all those flashes last year, and it was a shame that they wet the bed down the stretch because I felt like he flew under the radar because he got off to a little bit of a slow start.
Yeah.
And then he just kept ramping up. And then it's like now he's disrespectful out there, TV. Like, I mean, he throws guys down like he's just getting rid of yesterday's trash. He is. Their drafting period in Philly, he's legit.
He's mean. That's the thing.
That's it. Yeah, that's a good word. Mean. He's a mean-spirited guy.
Good defensive linemen are typically pretty mean.
I don't know, man.
They're not like offensive linemen, but think about the really good ones. They're a little nasty.
Oh, I always think of Vince Wilfork, and he kind of blows that kind of.
Vince Wilfork is a little different.
I mean, the dude was going shirtless with overalls.
That's a confident man.
Speaking of confidence, TV, if you're Nebraska, well, first let me back up. Listening this week through the pressers and the media, did you get the sense Nebraska gave Illinois too much, not enough credit, as they mainly talked about what they needed to do for this week?
I mean, I understand from within the team perspective, from the media perspective, I think we've done a good enough, specifically us, have done a good enough job of hey, listen, at the end of the day, Like Illinois just had a really good game plan on both sides of the ball, kind of giving the fair credit. But from the team perspective, understand like, you can only control what you can control. You can't control what the other team does out there. And this team, like Rule said, they're starting to judge themselves against their own standard, or that's what they're trying to do. And that's the way the team should operate. But also, like, at the same time, it's like I don't think from them it's like it makes sense to give credit when it's like the only things they can fix is their own game. They can't go back and change the result of what happened on Friday. All they can do is be like, okay, how do we tweak this so we come out on top the next time around?
Tim, I'm kind of curious about how you've experienced the tenor of the fan base this week, because I think DB and I have had a lot of people talk to us that seem kind of, I don't know if overly negative, but negative and maybe a little panicky about their outlook on the team following Illinois. But then in some of our listeners on the stream are like, hey, I don't know who you guys are listening to. My friends aren't really talking that way. I'm curious, from somebody who is sort of in the same business we are, but in a different way, what have you seen the reaction from fans be this week?
It's been weird. Like I kind of understand, like, if you are a not really plugged in and you kind of just listen to the national talk around this team going into the season and through the first 3 weeks, I can understand being like, well, I had national championship expectations for this team and they let me down. But it's weird to see people that are like super engaged with the program, that like post on our message board and post to other message boards, being like stunned by this, like, I mean, all of us had Nebraska going 3-1 through the first 4 games for the most part. We had lost to either Colorado or Illinois, and they're still on track. And again, like, I understand, like, there's a bit of a sky is falling because Friday felt a little familiar just in terms of late game loss. But I also think like a calibration of expectations was kind of needed around here. I do think like Nebraska didn't prove anything through the first 3 weeks. They proved they have a good quarterback and they've got an offensive identity, or like at least a competent offense. But they hadn't really proved anything through the first 3 weeks because we know now in retrospect the quality of opponent they played through those first 3 weeks. I still think there's a lot left to learn about this team, and I still think like, hey, like 8-4 is still very much on the table. Like, again, and if you think about what year 2 of Matt Rule has looked like everywhere else, like it's been fine. And like I think people are expecting them to, suddenly go 10-2 and make a playoff run this year was always a little foolish. I think this team could potentially have had or has that ceiling, but a lot would have to go right for that to happen. I just think realistically, like, you got to look at this team as like an 8-4 to 7-5-ish level team right now.
Tim, I want to start on offense because I think it was on your board or maybe on social media. CFB networks, they do kind of what they call a spider chart, and obviously it's a little bit of a spray chart for quarterbacks. And Dylan is playing pretty well, but it did kind of show where you would like to see him get a little bit better on later downs. If you're looking and you're not being too picky with the analytics, where is his play for you versus where you thought he needed to be for this year to be successful?
He's done everything I think you really ask for. To me, again, because going into the year, the expectation was that this is going to be a defensive led team. Through 4 weeks, especially the last 2 weeks, they haven't really been that. It's been the offense that's kind of like, like carried them. I will say with Dylan, I think he's done everything you can ask for from a freshman. If you're looking at one thing that's like, I guess, surprising or something you wanted more from him, I'm a little surprised at the deep touch and the consistency on the deep balls. I just thought that like that was like very much in his bag through high school. And it's like he's still figuring out rhythm with the guys and still figuring out exact touch. Like you could see even on this deep throw, like the 2 that were intercepted specifically, or called interceptions, in high school, he doesn't float that up there. He rifles that into the guy. That comes with time. That comes with familiarity with the receivers. But I don't know. That's been one thing for me that I'm like, okay, like, and throwing outside the numbers too. Like you mentioned that spider chart too. You see the efficiency outside the numbers isn't really there yet, especially deep. I think that'll come in time. I'm not super worried about it, but you're still seeing NFL throws across the middle. You're still seeing like he's doing so much right. But yeah, if you were to nitpick, I think those are the two things that really surprised me.
Now let me flip over to defense, because speaking of nitpicking, right? There are these narratives, right? And then I put it against what I see versus statistically, right? They're 18th in scoring defense. They're 30th in total defense. They're 20th in stop rate. I think if you would have asked me, would I have taken those numbers before the season started, I may not have jumped in and said, yeah, but I'd have been like, yeah, that'd be pretty good, right? Like that would be pretty good. But per usual, we don't sometimes like the way it looks. What's fair and what's foul when you look at critiquing this defense?
I think specifically the run defense, I think that's fair at this point, just because they weren't really challenged in that department the first 2 weeks, and they've been challenged there the last 2 weeks, and they have not held up. I think that's fair to be like, okay, that feels like a real concern right now. The pass defense, I think, like listening to Tony White talk this week, I thought, like we put out or everyone did, but just like, what Tony White said on Tuesday about like his game plan for attacking Illinois. And I had people coming like, oh, this is a lot of nothing and excuses from him. And it's like, no, I mean, he's just laying out the game plan for you and why it didn't work. In the first half, they sat on it to try and stop the run, but then Illinois took that opportunity to try and throw on them. Second half, they were like, okay, let's get after the quarterback a bit. Let's get after the quarterback a bit, and run lanes opened up. This team my takeaway from that is this team isn't disciplined enough just yet to get after the quarterback and maintain run discipline.
See, okay. So I was in Nebraska City yesterday. Tim, I am spot on. I am in lockstep with you, and hopefully spot on in my assessment. I agree on pass rushing integrity, like rush lanes, what I felt like Altmaier brought to the table versus what I think some other quarterbacks may. And I also think being a little more on the balls of your feet as opposed to heels will help you with tackling in the run game. Is that fair or foul?
Oh, absolutely fair. Yeah, I mean, even the play, like I would say, even the play, like John Bullock had the forced fumble on. He's on his heels pretty much until that ball is thrown. Then he's chasing that receiver down. Like there was a couple times you're seeing in the back seven where they're just like they're stuck in there reading a play through, and it's like commit one way or the other. Like, you know what I mean? Like at least
and
give
that definitely. I'm just telling you, like that will definitely help tackling, right?
Sure.
Like it's just a trust thing. It's playing free versus shoot. What's happening?
Right. Yeah, I just think, and we asked him after the game, and it does feel like that, like still, coming days out, I just feel like Illinois had a really good plan, like attacking them with tempo, attacking them with misdirection. I'll say another thing, if you talk about like what's a concern right now, we saw it pop up in the UTEP game, and then we saw Illinois do it because Illinois had a plan. Tempo can get this defense, like he can really mess with this defense right now. And Illinois, like the way they executed it was, they're used to running it and they ran it with efficiency, while UTEP was just like, all right, we're just running tempo and we're just going to throw whatever at the wall. Illinois, it was dialed in. It was and it was all coordinated to the point that like I think other teams are seeing that on film and they're going to try and get Nebraska in those situations where they're on their heels in tempo.
We're talking with Tim Verghese from Inside Nebraska. Tim, is that the downside of playing as many guys as Nebraska tries to? Is when somebody goes tempo, it makes it really hard on the defense to try and have the rotations they're used to.
Yeah, but also gives Nebraska that opportunity because every time the offense, defense, the play has to stop for them. So Nebraska can actually take advantage of that and use that to their advantage to just wind some seconds off the clock and kind of throw that, like get some additional seconds back. With how they manage subs, but no, I do think that's a bit of a downside. But I mean, I kind of agree with Tony White with what he said about I don't think they're subbing enough right now, especially in the back end.
It's interesting when you talk about, and I do think those guys have to play a little bit better too. So like from a fatigue isn't really the word I'm looking for, but just to stay sharp. Sometimes you need to like get on the pad or be coached up real time, and when you're not getting off the field enough, sometimes it's hard to make those changes on the fly. So, going back to offense here for a little bit, especially the way that Nebraska's wanted to recruit at the running back spot, and home run hitters versus not home run hitters. Coach Rule kind of sprinkled this in at the same time. He said, going in, We thought this may be a 20 to 25 carry game for Dowdell. But then in the same paragraph said, we probably need more packages for Emmett. Do you think they're still kind of figuring out that balance of the whole hammer versus nail thing as they try to get out of tendency?
I think so. And I think part of that is just the different styles of backs. I think part of it, and something I've kind of mentioned on our show and a couple other shows, I think when you watch Dante Dowdle run the footballs for the first 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks, I think the big difference is, for the most part, the hole he's always settling for is the hole that's behind Micah Mazuka and Ben Scott, and that just isn't there right now because Micah Mazuka is not on the field. And our Steve Merrick actually just reported over at the Insiders Board. He's at the Omaha airport on the flight to Chicago, and they saw Micah Mazuka on a flight to San Francisco. So Micah Mazuka will not be with Nebraska this weekend. But on that note, I think just the Dowdle vision question is a real question for me right now. Just like, can he read between the tackles and find that open space? Because there have been holes that he's kind of just missing, and he's running into just straight contact and hoping that his physicality overcomes that. Emmett and Rahmir don't run that way. Specifically, Emmett, I think, has that ability to run between the tackles and run decisively and cut. So I think I'd want to see more of him. I want to see them split that up a little more, because I think in a world where Nebraska's getting the push they do when Micah's out there, I think Dante's the best back for that, just because of how much of a hammer he is. But when you need a guy that can make the most of limited space, that's Emmett Johnson or Rahmir Johnson.
Yeah, Tim, obviously I think we both agree that vision is part of the issue with Dowdell, but you kind of hit on it there. Part of the issue, I think, too, is like Dowdell needs a hole where some of these other guys just needs a crease, right? You can't, like, if Dowdell can't get skinny in the hole, that's going to be a lot harder for him as those spaces get a little smaller with a little less push on the offensive line.
For sure. That's completely where I see it. And again, like, Emmett and Rahmir can do that. And I think I've liked what I've seen from Rahmir between the tackles as well this year. But yeah, Emmett's been, from last year, you saw that a lot with him.
So, Tim, as we kind of shift our focus to Purdue here a little bit, sticking with the running game, though, obviously Devin Mockbee's given Nebraska a ton of trouble in the past, especially a couple years. Where's your level of confidence in Nebraska coming off that Illinois game where the rush defense didn't look great in the second half to try and slow down a guy that they have had trouble with, and an offensive line that got some praise from Matt Vrzal yesterday?
I think, maybe it's just my I don't even know what the word is, but unseen confidence right now. But I think you're going to see kind of Tony White. Feels like just the wording he's used this week, the wording Matt Vrzal's used. I think they're going to get back to what they did last year defensively and being a little more unpredictable and getting after the quarterback and getting back to fundamentals of the Tony White defense specifically, and just letting guys play as fast as they want them to. I think you're going to see that a little bit this week, and I think Nebraska had a plan last year for Purdue, and I think they're going to have another plan this year because I don't see too many differences from this Purdue team from last year. And so I think you can go back to the plan you had last year, accounting for okay, hey, we don't have Omar Brown, we don't have Quentin Newsome, but we do have, a pretty solid unit up front, and we trust the guys we have in the back end to hold up.
How do you look at, excuse me, but kind of the Hudson Card versus Altmaier in terms of just their style? I get Purdue is a little thin outside the numbers and pretty beat up, especially after that Notre Dame game. But when you look at the style of quarterback that you think can present some trouble for Nebraska, do you see any similarities?
Yeah, a quarterback that could. You're only going to see these next couple of weeks, and then obviously I don't think you're really going to see it against Indiana. I think their quarterback's talented, but I don't think he's this type of guy. But a quarterback that can, kind of move the pocket around and extend plays and do that kind of thing, or basically just be a dual threat quarterback. I think that really challenges Nebraska right now because they don't have a clear answer for it, which I think is really interesting because of who they practice against. You would think practicing against Dillon would help you prep for that, but they showed the last 2 weeks, hey, a quarterback that's mobile. We saw that pop up against Northern Iowa as well. A quarterback that can move around a little bit, that can extend plays. The defense can't really hold downfield, all that well. And I think relatively though, like, Damon, you mentioned those stats, but I think relatively, like, there's obviously been some real issues with this defense, specifically against the run. But I think against the pass,
It's on early downs.
Yep.
I've got a lot of like first down defense for them is that's where they've got to get better, and it will eventually help them on third down.
For sure.
Tim, you brought up an interesting point about practicing against Dylan and maybe that translating, but Dylan, like, correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but I would compare Dylan more to Shedeur in a guy that extends to throw, whereas the guys they've had trouble with are guys that are a little bit more willing to take off. Is that a fair distinction to make?
Yeah, I think absolutely. But I think Dylan, like, more than Shedeur, like, has a really, really natural feel for extending plays, whereas, like, Shadeur's more statuesque. Like, Dylan does move that pocket around and do some of those things, and I think that's more so what Nebraska's struggling with right now than a guy that truly, because I think they're doing a good job of triggering on the quarterback once he starts to take off. I just think they don't do a good enough job of holding up in coverage when it's like, okay, he's rolling out to the right, we gotta shift our coverage over as well.
How much of that is, especially last week, how much of that do you think is sort of the ripple effect of Tommy Hill not being out there for a good chunk of that? Obviously, Sierra Wright played pretty well, but if Tommy Hill is who we kind of think he is, an NFL draft pick, that type of thing, there has to be some repercussions from him not being in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, even I think Tommy's gotten to the point when he's fully healthy, and he wasn't that at the start of the game. Like, Matt Vrzal said that at the this week, and you kind of saw that obviously on film, just the how off he looked on that first drive before they took him out. When he's healthy, he is that level right now where I think he's a bit of a, like, field eliminator. Like, he's completely eliminated the side of the field he's on. Like, quarterbacks don't really look there or target that way, and or they rarely do, you know what I mean? Like, that's not their first read, or that's not their first look, is to go just go at Tommy. And so I think because of that, I think that was missed a little bit last week, just because that does kind of completely eliminate a side of a field for you.
When you're taking a look at Nebraska's approach this week as it relates to being on the road, do you like how are you trying to decipher between tight and uptight versus kind of dialed in and focused?
Yeah, I don't think you want to be too, like, and I don't think they're too tight necessarily. I think it is more dialed in and focused. I think my general feel, like, I think, like, the fan base has wavered over the last 2 weeks, just in terms of, like, like, the confidence in the team and expectations and all of that. But I think the team in general, like, I still do believe, I think last week rattled them a good bit, but I think it gave them, like, they utilize that as an edge. Like, you hear the way MJ Sherman talks, you hear the way the rest of the team talks this last week. I think it hasn't affected the team as much as it has the fan base.
Yeah, I mean, certainly MJ Sherman seemed like he was pretty locked in this week.
And that's the thing. Like, I think with this team right now is so many of these veteran senior leaders are also guys that are contributing at a high level for this team, that I think it's just, like, that's just going to carry over on the field. Like, you have the mix of these old veterans that know what the standard is now and are trying to play to that, to hold everyone else accountable to that. And then you have a freshman quarterback that's trying to get everybody up to his standard as well. And so I think that the combination of those two things bodes well down the line. Again, we have to see what this team does on Saturday, but I think we learn a lot about this team on Saturday. Like, if they can hold their own, if they can kind of come out against some adversity, dealing with the rain, dealing with this first road game, dealing with having to bring your own juice a little bit on the road. If they can get through all of that, I think you answer a lot of questions going into a tough stretch of the schedule.
Tim, real quick, we have spent all week talking about Illinois and Purdue. I don't think we've even barely mentioned the Dayton Raiola commitment yet to Nebraska.
Good point.
And so
all week, maybe.
I know. So I wanted to bring it up with you because I know you've been pretty dialed in on what his kind of recruitment looked like. What led to this? Because I know there was, I mean, at least I've heard from other recruiting people, and I think from you as well, that Nebraska wanted to see some varsity tape before accepting that commitment.
Yeah, and I think the start of the year he's had there's been enough on film so far that it's like, okay, I think you can give him the green light. But I think part of it too is also on his end, just that growing confidence, and, like, I think he put it out there too, is like, I just want him to be there. And it's like, I like, every time I'm out there, it feels like that this is where I want to be and where I need to be. And I think that, I think just all of that just like compiled in itself. And I think part of it too, I don't know how intentional in it or not is either, but like a bit strategic on just like, hey, like Dylan's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Like the Raiola family's kind of locked in.
That's Tim Verghese from Inside Nebraska. Tim, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
All right,
Thanks,
talk
TV.
next week.
I mean, speaking of big brothers, I mean, you got the literal big brother, Dylan and Dayton Raiola.
Yeah.
If you don't have one of those, you can always go and try and be a big brother for some mentees here in Omaha. Big Brothers Big Sisters is trying to find 60 men in 60 days by October 30th to be mentors in the Omaha area. Go to mentoromaha.org to sign up today. You can also be a big sister or a big couple, but they're making this big push to get 60 men in 60 days. Mentoromaha.org is where you find out more information and can sign up today. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio here, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and we're brought to you by our friends at EP Foundation Repair. If you've been out to either of our live breakfasts, you'll recognize EP as our presenting sponsor out there. But they're more than just good partners for us. They're good partners for you, too, as anything you need with foundation repair, basement waterproofing, crawl space encapsulation, they've got you covered. Over 25 years of experience, and they're local. So they know the building practices and soil conditions of the area so they can tailor solutions to your needs. Go to EP Concrete, that's EPPconcrete.com for more information. DB.
What up?
There's been a lot going on around the rest of the world in college football and the NFL.
Yes, there has.
That we haven't been able to get to a lot.
Yeah. I couldn't believe that's the first time we talked about Dayton, but it kind of seems like 2026 is so far.
It's so far away
that we're like, man.
Is there also any part?
Are we really gonna go 8-4? Is
there also any kind of party that just us? I mean, I kind of just thought it was a given at a certain point. I mean, maybe I'm just.
I don't know. I didn't. Maybe
that's how I felt. And maybe I'm just totally out there because I don't have any information on it.
Sisters there, brothers there.
Yeah, like the family's pretty tied in.
Unc is there.
Yeah, like I think, I don't know, mom and dad have moved here, but, it seems like they have.
Dom made a funny comment about Air Raiola the other day. It was funny, but yeah, I mean, he's gotten much better.
He's gotten bigger too.
And he's trimmed down. Like he's
changed his body and he grew.
Played well. Dom and I, we talked about, was it DC they played a couple weeks ago? They played top. One of the top teams in Georgia, and he played well, and he kind of felt like, okay.
And he made.
I think we can really do this at a high level.
I think he made Sports Center a couple weeks ago for this dime in the back of the end zone. But yeah, I don't know, and maybe it's just my ignorance of the situation. But I was like, hey, Nebraska's kind of the family business now, so this is what you got. This is what you do,
literally and figuratively,
right? So I maybe that's why it didn't. Like, it was cool. I'm glad to see that it happened, but I was like, I just kind of figured that was how this was going to go.
Would you, when you were talking about other worlds or other things happening in college football and the NFL, it's probably us because it's Purdue, but there's no way Georgia and Alabama is flying under the radar, is it?
No, I don't think.
But it does kind of seem like it.
It has snuck up on me a couple times this week. Like, I knew as I'm, kind of wrapping up last Saturday and Sunday, I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Georgia, Alabama coming up. That's awesome. And then we got into this whole Illinois postmortem for a few days. Then we had to get into Purdue. And so I think maybe locally it's flying under the radar a little bit more just because we're so hyper-focused on Nebraska. But, I mean, this is obviously an enormous game. But I'm also really interested to see, like, this is the first really big non-Nick Saban Alabama game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, maybe.
And DeBoer's your guy.
I love DeBoer, yeah. And, I mean, I don't really dislike Georgia. I didn't want them to win 3 in a row just because, nobody else has done it, so I didn't really want them to do it either. But I don't really have anything against Georgia. I think the way they run their program's been, from a football standpoint, it's been incredible. Obviously, there's been some other stuff going on there. But I'm a DeBoer guy, so if I can see this guy that, and again, this is incredibly influenced by my own personal like frame of reference. I love the fact that this guy was an NAIA coach like 15 years ago. That makes me so happy. Like, if you had told him while he's winning natties at Sioux Falls, like, hey, like not that long from now, you're gonna be the head coach of Alabama. Like, that's incredible to me.
Yeah.
That story to me is just incredible, and so I love it.
Speaking of which, Virginia Tech and Miami tonight. Preseason, this would have been a great matchup.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech hasn't quite held up their end of it.
Miami certainly has.
But Miami has.
Whew. That was my one playoff team I didn't feel great about because it's Miami.
Yeah.
Right. But I was like, I trusted Florida State less. I trusted Clemson less. And so I was like, well, I guess I got to go with Miami. Cam Ward, all of a sudden, is now your Heisman favorite, which rightfully so, probably at this point in the season. That Miami team they might be for real.
What about K-State and Oklahoma State? That's in Manhattan.
I'm super interested to see that one because, like, I went back and watched BYU Kansas State from last week, right? Because the numbers didn't make sense to me. I watched it live. I watched it live, and I was like, I kind of felt like BYU beat them up a little bit. And I look at the box score, and the numbers are all wonky, right? Kansas State has way more yards. Like, BYU didn't move the ball great, all this kind of stuff. And you've got, okay, well, I got the pick six, and I got the punt return, and you're like, I don't know. Did they really beat them up that bad? And I watched them again. I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel like they beat them up. So I'm interested to see what K-State looks like against a team that I know is pretty good. I know Oklahoma State's pretty good. I don't know how good, right? But I'm interested to see not only how K-State bounces back, but also, is K-State who we thought they were? Can Avery Johnson be that guy? Like, I'm really interested in that game. The Big 12's been fun this year, man.
Yeah, because it seems like every week there's a good matchup.
Yeah, well, because there's a lot of good teams. There's no Ohio State, Bama, Georgia in that conference, but there is a ton of good teams in that conference.
What about because I do think this one is flying under the radar. I'm surprised it's on Peacock too.
Which one?
Louisville and Notre Dame.
Ooh, I had that on my list. That's a good one.
That's a great one.
That's a find out game for both of those teams.
You surprised it's on Peacock?
A little, but even though Louisville's good, they're not a national brand in football the way that they probably would want for the NBC game this week. I am surprised that they don't take any opportunity they can to put Notre Dame on NBC in a ranked matchup. But I mean,
it is Notre Dame.
Yeah, right. And so that's low. Honestly, after Georgia Bama, that might be my favorite game of the week.
I thought you may go quietly. I want to see what Kentucky does at Oxford against Ole Miss, because Ole Miss has been boat racing, folks.
Yeah,
and I think Kentucky may be better than losing at home a couple of weeks ago, real ugly to South Carolina.
I mean, that's a super interesting spot for Kentucky because obviously you've got the blowout against South Carolina, then you have the near miss against Georgia the next week out. I don't know what to make of Kentucky at all. I do think I know what to make of Ole Miss, and they may not hang 60 on Kentucky, but I don't think that's gonna be a close game.
Yeah,
that game I kind of feel like how I did about Minnesota, Iowa last week, where I was like, I feel like I already know who these two teams are.
You know what? I have this weird, like, I've thought it all week and usually always trust my gut. You know, I think wins, and I would say outright, even though it's a tight line.
What's that?
I don't see how Oklahoma beats Auburn.
Oh, really?
I don't.
I know
I go.
Just can't score enough.
I know that goes against B. Edwards, but
just can't score.
I just don't see it.
Well, you got the new quarterback coming in, so that's going to be interesting.
I don't care which one of them plays.
No, that's fine. I'm saying that's a hostile environment to get your first.
Auburn does turn it over at a pretty high clip, but man,
I don't know how.
I can't see. I can't see a world.
I don't know.
And I get it. It's like, duh. You're like, DB, it's a pick. I'm like, how can you not see it? I just don't.
I don't know how functional Auburn is as an organization.
I know.
That would be my biggest concern because I don't love Hugh Freeze. And
it's funny. Like, why did you single him out on Monday or Tuesday? Like, you said something super snarky off air. You're like, is there a word? And I'm just like, well, why is Hugh Freeze on the brain?
I was just looking at. I was reading up on some of his comments and stuff after the last game.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not a huge fan anyway.
Because it was off air. right?
Yeah.
I didn't have. I'm like,
And then I made the comment to B. Edwards, I think, later in the week. But yeah, I'm not a fan. And I thought, like, especially when you have a head coach that tends to say the right things a lot of the time and seems like he means them, it's really painfully obvious when a head coach is not doing that. And Hugh Freeze caught my attention this week for that.
yeah, DJ's or well, it's DJ, but he sent me a deal from Coach Freeman's presser.
Yeah.
And it was a clip in which we kind of became enamored with when Coach Rule said, we're kind of caring, not coddling. And Coach Freeman said, sometimes love is hard.
Yeah, I'm a big Coach Freeman guy.
So is he. Like, me too.
I hope.
Like he loves Coach Freeman.
I hope he gets enough runway because I think he got that job a little early. Like, I'm not sure he was ready.
Yeah.
But I also think it was.
That surprises me you're in on Freeman.
I like Freeman a lot. I really do. Like, he just has it's because of stuff like that. He says the things I believe.
Yeah.
About what's important in football and everything else.
And you think Wisconsin can they remotely score enough? That line is 15.
I don't think so. I didn't think they could score enough before with Tyler Van Dyke. I certainly don't think they can score enough now. I don't think so. I don't see they're my Oklahoma, if anybody. Like, I just don't see a way forward.
Don't be surprised if Washington beats Rutgers at Rutgers. I know that's everybody's darling. It was mine. The quarterback plays at a high level in Washington.
Will Rogers can spin it.
And better skill than Rutgers.
And Jed Fish is a good football coach.
Yes, he is.
Coming up next, we will get into some NFL here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. Before we talk NFL, we're going to talk about what they would call real football in Europe. That's Union Omaha Soccer. Make sure you get out to unionomaha.com to get tickets. Wednesday coming up, little day game action on the 2nd, 12 p.m. It's Students and Educators Day, presented by Family Fair and Supermercado. Make sure you get to unionomaha.com, get some tickets. We saw our Omaha Storm Chasers win a championship last night. Got first place Union Omaha getting towards the tail end of their season as well. See if they can bring home some hardware also, unionomaha.com. All right, time for some NFL, DB.
All right, time for some NFL. Why do you love Wan'Dale Robinson? I'm just kidding.
I mean,
but I'm not kidding. You love Wan'Dale Robinson.
I'm okay on him.
Yeah. Are you mad because he left?
A little bit.
Jilted lover?
I don't blame him. Like, I understand the situation he was in. Like, I get it.
One of the more awkward, terse, tense departures ever.
Oh,
yeah, it was.
Yeah, probably.
It was.
That's fair. I understand if you're in his situation why you leave.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't know that he was getting the optimum usage at Nebraska.
Outside of CD Lamb's little sweep deal.
Yeah.
What do you know the longest run last night in the game?
Ooh, I know that the Giants.
I could have told you as of about 4:40 a.m. this morning.
I know that the Giants only had like 26 yards rushing the entire game, and the Cowboys had like 80. I don't know what the long was outside of CD Lamb.
9. And CD Lamb's little sweep deal went for 10.
Yeah.
But he finished with 8 total because they came back to it and they tackled him for a loss, remember, on the little reverse thing.
Incredible.
This wasn't a lot of good rushing the football last night.
No, it wasn't a lot of great football in general.
But Dakota only threw 5 incompletions, though.
Yeah.
It seemed like Dallas could have and should have scored more.
It does. It was a lot of, it wasn't really stretching the field, though. We only ended up with like 215 yards on 27 attempts. Is that right?
220 maybe? Yeah, splitting hairs. 220, 220.
Yeah, so he's efficient for sure.
But
seemed like,
how many balls do you think Daniel Jones was going to underthrow?
All of them. Because every time he drops back, all of them.
The free play that he had to Slayton that Dallas ended up picking.
Yeah.
That should have been a touchdown.
How miraculous.
It wasn't even that far of a throw.
How miraculous is it that Malik Neighbors has put up the numbers he has with that quarterback play?
Oh, he's pretty incredible.
Yeah, hopefully he can bounce back from
Well, he said he was. Did you see his? Was that on IG or social media? It came across my timeline.
I'm not sure.
He said he's straight.
He's good? Because they were saying concussion protocol.
Yeah, he was concussed and still able to get to social media. He is legit.
Seems like a lot of people on social media seem a little concussed, but that's okay.
Wow.
Just call people out.
Ravi here for people not being very smart.
No, I do look at Malik Neighbors. I'm like, how are you even doing this with Daniel Jones as your quarterback? I feel bad for you.
It seemed like the Giants threw the ball 40 times last night.
Yeah, with Daniel Jones.
Seemed like a lot.
In what world does that seem like a good idea?
How come every time Singletary touches the ball, I think he's going to drop it? Is that just me, or is it like kind of what is ball security?
I don't trust him.
It does. He does not look sturdy.
Yeah, does not look like it. Does not instill confidence. I don't think that's.
There's some big games this week though.
Yeah, there's a handful that I'm really excited about. Vikings Packers is top of the list for me.
Do you believe in the Bears' second half last week?
No.
They're a home fave against the Rams.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not sure I believe in the Rams as currently.
I'm just not sure who Stafford's going to throw to, but it hasn't kind of seemed to matter.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about their overall personnel situation with the Rams, but I do not believe in the Bears. That's not a thing that you have any trouble of. There's no danger of that happening.
What about Vikings Packers?
I'm excited about Vikings Packers because I'm sort of on the Sam Darnold hype train a little bit.
I saw one of the guys was visiting that was in Nebraska City yesterday. He's from Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
He's a huge Packers fan, and on his T-shirt had like an NG, so it was a G sitting inside the block N.
Okay,
and it was in green, yellow, and white colors, and on the back it said it's all about the Huskers on Saturdays and the Packers on Sundays. And I'm like, shoot, I wish Jacob was a bigger Nebraska fan.
Yeah.
Because I would have gotten him that T-shirt.
Yeah.
But I don't.
And we're not.
I think he's kind of indifferent.
We're not expecting Jordan Love to play.
No. I mean.
I'm not.
I mean, do you rush it? It's a pretty good defense. You'd be bringing back a guy with
a knee injury.
With a bum knee.
Well,
I almost said peg leg, but that seemed kind of harsh.
Yeah, I don't think they had to amputate. I think he's okay.
Yeah. But still,
Yeah, it was still, I mean, I think getting 2 wins with Malik Willis already is more than you possibly could have asked for. Because if you say, hey, it's going to be a 4-week injury, you're like, man, if we can go 2-2, that's great. They've already got the 2, right? So don't rush this thing back. You've already gotten to the point where your season has survived this injury. The only way you can ruin it now is to bring him back too early and have him miss more time. Because that's the other thing I'm interested to see in this game is what can Matt LaFleur do with Malik Willis against that Vikings defense? Like, can he come up with something again to make this game competitive?
If you're looking at lines that get your attention, you're like, which one's a little more off? Cincinnati only, a desperate Bengals team, only being a 4.5-point favorite against Carolina.
Okay.
In the Red Rifle rivalry game.
Andy Dalton revenge game.
And the Steelers being just a 1.5-point favorite over the Colts.
I'm more surprised. I think the Colts are pretty bad too.
So do you know what? Did I tell you what TK sent me on DraftKings was their point total? Team total?
Colts?
Indy.
No. Or what you told me about it. What's the number though?
19.5.
I'm not an Anthony Richardson guy.
Doesn't that seem high for the Steelers defense?
Yes, and for the Colts offense. I mean, I'm not an Anthony Richardson guy, so I have a really hard time looking at them against any team that's decent. I mean, like, oh yeah, they should be within a score. Like and I think Justin Fields is playing pretty well. Like I know we don't want to say that out loud yet.
Yeah.
But is he playing better than you thought he was going to play?
Yes.
Like with that defense, with that infrastructure, with that coaching staff, you got to feel okay so far as a Steelers fan.
How about so far? So the Commanders have clearly had the best off season with non-football player hires, right?
With Dan Quinn.
Well, don't forget. So the guy that we're forgetting about is Kingsbury.
Oh yeah.
I mean, him with Daniels.
Well, and he caught a stray from our guy Cam Taylor. That didn't age well.
That's fine.
No. But
Still an obviously TV.
But Kingsbury has like had a nice little like Washington's offense has been extremely efficient, especially going back to the second half of 2 weeks ago.
Is it possible? I mean,
I don't think they punted in 6 quarters.
No, so here's the stat. Jaden Daniels in the last 2 games has not ended a drive on a punt or a turnover. It's either been a score, an end of half, or a kneel down. That's it. Do you know I'm trying to remember who all is included in this. Do you know how many times that Brady, Manning, and Mahomes have done that combined in their careers?
10, 11, 12.
Yeah, what he said. Twice?
2. Jaden Daniels has 2 in his first career, first 3 career starts. I'm not saying he's going to be one of those guys, but that's how rare this performance has been over the last 2 games.
Shane, do your Raiders get it done at home against the Browns?
The battle of the 1 and 2 teams.
I think I saw a stat last week where Deshaun Watson is averaging less than 5 yards per completion.
He's so bad.
Less than 5 though in the NFL.
He's so bad.
Like what are we doing?
I don't know.
What's worse, the bottom of the West or the Central?
In the AFC?
Yeah.
There's no Central.
You mean the North?
No, the North.
Yeah, the North.
So the Browns, Bengals.
Yeah. Old Central.
The West.
Bottom
Because
West.
I actually think the Bengals could have a pulse, even though they can't. I don't know how they're going to block for Burrow.
You got. I think yesterday you were talking. Was it with Brunts about Penei Sewell?
No. So
when was that?
Okay, that was yesterday, but we were talking about players you pay to see, and it was Johnny. It was Johnny Livingston.
Yeah, brought up Penei Sewell, and every time I see Joe Burrow get buried, I think of Penei Sewell. And listen, Jamar Chase is awesome, right? He's incredible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good wide receivers out there. It's going to be really hard.
Cornerstone left tackle or electric dynamic wide receiver.
It's going to be
most times people take the cornerstone left tackle,
especially when you've already got the quarterback, right? Like if you've got the guy you think is the quarterback, pretty much the most important thing is keeping him alive.
Yeah.
And the Bengals have done a very poor job of that.
You know who I think gets the hammer dropped on them this week?
Who's that?
The Chargers.
You think so? You think the Chiefs dial it all the way up?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
They're close.
That's on my list, too.
Is it?
Yeah, because I want to see kind of stylistically which way prevails. Because Jim Harbaugh is going to try and play that thing ugly.
Air towards the Chiefs.
Mike Sautter coming up next. Talk a little high school football here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Woo, who's ready to go? Third hour here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We've got Mike Sautter here with us as well. Hurrdat Sports and NEB Preps. What's up, Mike?
Not much.
I do have a little bit of breaking news real quick. I think it's breaking news. Nebraska's selling alcohol at football games next year.
Hold on, what?
It just came down from the World Herald. Pending board approval on October 4th meeting, they're planning on selling alcohol.
Somebody
at
die?
Someone
died we don't know about?
So remember a couple weeks ago, this was the week that I went to Holy Ghost, and I'm like, Dannon's impact is going to be interesting because he's going to push the envelope in terms of generating revenue streams.
Got to now.
We
got to.
That one guy's still alive, right?
And they saw what happened. They saw what happened with baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. People like to drink sporting events.
I just don't think they could, in good faith, with the way college football is going.
Yeah, you're gonna need that money.
That you could leave that money on the table.
They're going to sell them at volleyball matches at the Bob Devaney Center as well, starting next season is the plan, as long as the board approves on October 4th in Kearney. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
They're doing it at basketball games. It works fine.
And we haven't had any issues. No issue. Everybody's okay. They've been doing it.
Everybody's fine.
Every other Big Ten school in the conference. So
I'll take it.
That's a pretty big deal. I mean, that's been a huge topic here for a long time. It really has.
It's nice.
No one had to make the call to guy that's still alive.
Mm-hmm. We're on the same plane at about
get approval
in about an hour 30. I so desperately want to.
I feel like
talk about that, but I'm gonna go sit in my seat and mind my own business.
I feel like he might be lobbying some board members between now and October 4th.
No,
No.
TD's on the plane.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh.
Yeah, the other guy might be lobbying some board members.
I was
Man, I
happy.
think it's
I was happy to see they put him on bus 5 with us though.
TD.
Yeah.
He's back there with the normies.
I can't remember what they called our bus. It does have a name though.
Is it called the Expendables?
No, because there is a 6.
Oh, there is. So you're
Yeah.
not on the last bus.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Wow.
Mike went.
Nice. Tough crowd.
I'm sorry. I just had
Good.
it. It's joke Tourette's. It was right there for me.
Whatever.
It's a long overdue decision.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I am excited isn't the word. I am very curious to see like week 1 revenue sales.
Mm.
I bet the number is
Through the
astronomical.
roof.
Something that you couldn't even think of that it's going to be.
Well,
high.
they've already the number from.
Was baseball getting 10K in sales?
I think so. I think that sounds right. It sounds like familiar, but I'm not sure.
I gotta ask B-Mac.
I
I think that's what I think that's what it ended up being.
I will say going cashless has increased their revenue per game almost double.
So I
so
think
much faster.
Yeah, you can just turn people through so
Yeah.
much faster.
and you know what it forced them to do is up the Wi-Fi
At least for their
in the concourse.
they're working on
But
it in
be-
the lower bowl, but
They're trying.
yeah, for the actual
Well, the cool thing about
Point of sale
Dannon
systems.
is he's a fan.
Mhm.
So standing like when he can't get on,
he cares about the
internet-
experience.
When he can't get on the internet, he wants to see scores before the kick.
Yes.
Fan experience.
He's going to be like,
matters.
"Hey, can we help?" You know, but the thing about it is you can't do too much without having to tear it up.
Yeah,
with-
structurally,
with renovations anyway coming.
Yeah.
So you have to like get by.
100%. Mike, let's
now
get.
I have the song in my head.
Which song?
Never mind.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, it's
Weird, dude.
it's my like '90s rap.
It's your wheelhouse.
Yeah, my '90s rap.
Somebody was singing
Okay.
Das Effects the other day, and I thought
That
it'd
was
be-
me. Yeah, we were talking.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I knew
could
you were
sing
on the
that
brink.
song too.
No,
They want effects.
no. Let's talk top 10.
Let's start with last night. Papio and Prep. You were out at that one, right?
Yeah, I was there. Yep.
And that one a little closer than the final score is going to indicate
Yeah,
For a good portion of the game.
It's 3-0 at halftime.
Yeah. until
And
it gets six, right?
There was about 3 minutes to go in the third to
Then
end the first 4 minutes of the fourth where that
that
game
got
was-
away from Prep.
yeah,
where
It wa-
totally flipped.
going into it, I thought it was going to be a low-scoring game. I thought it'd be pretty competitive, and that's kind of what it was. I
We
mean,
said on NEB Preps, well, in your defense, you said the higher scoring it got, the more advantage it was Papio.
Papio, yeah.
But I said 10. I said 10 would win.
yeah.
Yeah, it
So
would've-
kind of both.
It
Yeah.
would've.
Kind of both were true.
Because
Kinda-
it
it
went,
wasn't a lot. I mean, it's 3-0 at halftime. I mean,
and then it goes pick six, a 70-yard return into a touchdown, and
Yeah.
then the game's kind of just
over.
it's basically done at that point.
It's interesting just knowing a lot of those guys, watching them through youth. They play a lot like their coach. Like they have taken on
Yeah.
Coach Williams'
Mm.
personality.
I think it's the first time I've talked to him. I like him.
No,
like
no nonsense, confident, not afraid to say he doesn't like you.
Little chippy
Chippy.
underdog. Yeah.
Maybe that's why I like him. He's a little petty like me.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He keeps receipts. Zero question about that.
No, he was good to talk to this morning.
I think it said last week or the week
I mean,
before.
quarterbacks like that, Pomerantz like that, Caleb's like that.
I said last week or the week before, Papillion-LaVista is a team that we're not kind of talking enough about. Not saying that they're, world beaters or anything like that, but they're in that conversation as the fourth, fifth best team. I mean, they are, and depending on, Elkhorn South, could they maybe see them and beat them? I don't know. They're huge up front. They're up front. They're big.
They do look good getting off the bus.
Yeah, and then you have Cale Johnson is a stud. I mean, Pamran is a stud. Bogats is good,
How
receiver.
How about you're playing such way on offense where Bogats doesn't really
He
get
didn't do
involved until
Yeah.
he caught the little look in,
Yeah.
the little slant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shoot. I almost in my head, I'm thinking, something wrong. Because he's good. He's pretty good.
He's a great route runner, short burst
I
guy.
like him.
Yeah, he's
Just
great.
as a-
And Pamarin's just a great athlete. Like he's a
really good baseball
he's
player,
a
too,
Division I
right?
baseball
I was
Yeah.
trying to describe his build to Ravi, like, because he doesn't. He's just a
Compact.
he's just a really good player.
Yeah, he's compact.
Yeah.
I would say would be his build, but he's got some speed. He's fast. Obviously,
So
two-way
you saw him
guy.
move, yeah.
Yeah,
Mean spirited, like I
Yeah,
kind of
physical.
like their
Because
team.
he's not super big, right?
He's bottom heavy.
yeah.
But I mean,
So
like
it's
he's like he's under 6 foot tall.
Yeah,
he's not like
yeah,
huge.
yeah.
Good call.
So, but up front, I mean, they're big. You gotta remember, like a guy like Logan Holtmeyer, who's a wrestler and state medalist and a heavyweight guy. I mean, he's been starting for 3 years.
3 years.
Like he's been through some battles and wars and lost some games, and like he's a guy that's pretty tough and good. And then Garen Malley had a great game last night too. I thought he got beat 1 or 2 times playing tackle on offense, but he made some big, like he had a sack, and then he had a couple of run stuffs and had a couple tackles for loss in the run game.
In your opinion, even that thing was
And
kind
Bryce
of like,
Vignes is another guy who's coming, by the way,
It's-
like for them.
in like a 5-minute burst.
Mhm.
Do you feel like you learn more about Papillion or Prep?
Oh,
I felt like it told me more about who Prep was,
Hmm.
because I kind of
Yeah.
thought that's who Papillion was. Like that did the way that they play and what they're capable of didn't surprise me. I did wonder
If,
about
like, Prep
Prep.
could respond.
Yeah, kind of tinkering with their offense. You know, Ruby was kind of getting the lion's share in the backfield. I wondered what it would mean to move
Walker.
Walker out wide, and how's the boot play. Like, I didn't know enough about Prep's offense, but I do think that's kind of going to be who they are.
Bob Deserse and I he must have been watching the game or was at it last night, and he texted me. So I'm not going to take credit for this. He said, I like Prep's outside zone, but they have to have a complementary play action off of it.
So what's interesting is I think that's fun. You could tell he's a coach.
Yeah.
Because when we play them, so I'm gonna leave that over. I agree 100%. But you know what I think is kind of the complementary piece to that has been their boot game. They need something else.
Their boot game is really good.
It's pretty slick.
It is.
And Caniglo's tough. I haven't posted this
it's
run.
pretty
he had last
slick.
night,
So
but
we make decisions on how to
You try to cover that.
play the edges with him, knowing that the boot game is always a thing.
That was
he's spot on.
I think part of that game too is, the line play was Papa's a little older up front,
Oh, they asserted themselves late.
and Prep's not that old up front, so I think it's a little bit of that experience stuff is. I mean, they have guys like Prep has Brock is a guy who's going to be a really good lineman. Started it, I guess 3 technique for them last night. He's a sophomore. Like,
Trap's going to be a good player. He's a freshman.
Trap's going to be good. Like they got some guys, some linemen coming. The district's just really hard. The winner of that game last night said it to a couple people before the game, is kind of in a little bit of a catbird seat for making the playoffs, because you take the top 2 automatically in your district, and the West Side, Papio, and Prep are in that district along with Fremont and Central. It's easily the toughest district.
Fremont's 2-2. Is it Burke tonight?
I think.
Is it Burke
it's
Fremont?
non-district.
I think it is. Yeah, it is. I just had it up here. Yeah, it's Burke Fremont at Fremont,
And they're both
Omaha Bryan.
Yeah. And you guys in Central are tonight.
Yeah.
So kind of a big game. There'll be a little.
What about Kearney Lincoln East?
Good game. I mean,
who's for? It's kind of like a who's for real, right?
I don't know,
We
Lincoln
think
East-
Kearney is pretty good.
and I think Lincoln East physicality is going to have to kind of ratchet up a little bit, which I think maybe they did recently from the first. I saw them in game 1 against Elkhorn South, and Elkhorn South just hammered them. So they're not huge, right? But that's a good game. Michael Ford is a good player for East, and obviously Sawyer Schilke's pretty good for Kearney. So you have a little bit of star power in that one.
Who do you think gets off the schneid between GI and 2 teams that aren't used to being over? GI and Millard West.
Yeah, I think
Because that's here, right?
Yeah, is it?
I think it is here.
so.
I thought it was out there, but I could be wrong. Obviously,
Oh, I think it's at Grand Island. Yeah.
is
that
yeah,
GI?
I thought-
I think
yeah.
so.
So a little bit tougher, right? Just the travel out there. That district's not great. Like A6 is it's the lightest of the 6 Class A districts. I think Millard West probably runs the table. And wins
Ooh,
the rest of the way out.
Yeah, finish like 5-4. And then Millard West would be like an 11, like a 10-11 seed. You don't want to play.
So they go Grand Island, Bellevue West, Omaha Northwest,
Oh, Bell West. Yeah, I forgot about
Bell East. Sorry,
Yeah,
Bell
it's-
East, Grand Island, Bell East, Omaha Northwest, Lincoln North Star, Omaha Westview. So
Yeah, I mean, I
Westview's
think
been a
that's
little
5
better
and-
than maybe some people
they
thought.
got kind of smacked last night, but North Star shut them out, so that's a little
A
questionable.
little misleading early results.
Yeah, Millard West is a good team. They just played a brutal schedule. Like I think Millard West is a pretty good team, relatively speaking.
I mean, they had an opportunity to beat Miller North week 1.
Yeah,
Like they were at the goal line and just
Yeah.
couldn't get it done.
they had an opportunity last week against Prep.
Can
Yeah.
Southeast hang on to the ball long
No.
enough?
No.
You no. No. Okay.
No. I'll be right down the street from there. At my Pinnacle Bank game of the week is Norris and at Lincoln Pius X, which it looks like Volkmer's playing this week. So he's back and
Gives him a chance at quarterback. How about Norris? Speaking of schedule, how about Norris's schedule?
well, it's not Blair's down the stretch, so
Which is
Well,
incredible.
Blair's got Elkhorn North tonight, right?
Listen,
it's ridiculous.
Blair's final 5 games,
It's ridiculous.
4 of them are in the top 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
And the other one is Elkhorn, who's always going to be tough.
It's just mean.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I don't know if I remember a stretch like that.
It's not easy.
There's
4 of the last 5
not that condensed.
are
Blair's-
against the top 5.
Blair's Elkhorn North, Bennington, Seward, Elkhorn High, Scott.
Yeah,
like,
all,
we've-
4 of those 5 are in the top 5.
We've seen
real tough.
some where like every team they've played ends up making the playoffs.
Matter of fact,
or every team's ranked when they play them. But
look at the record
They're 2-2.
because Bennington's undefeated,
Yeah.
Scott's undefeated, Seward's undefeated,
and Elkhorn's
and
2-2.
and Elkhorn North is
And Elkhorn North's undefeated.
undefeated.
so you got 2 losses combined in your last 5 games.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's a rough go.
Yeah, not hard. Elkhorn, Gretna and Bennington tonight is Class B1. That's a little.
I worry about Gretna's defense.
Yeah, this might be a game where, we've been waiting for
Bennington's offense has been getting better.
Yeah, been waiting for them to kind of pop a 40-point game in here, and this
Might be
could be it. Now, Bennington's defense is pretty good, but they're going to be challenged a little bit. Like,
we
it's all right.
saw Seward and Scottsbluff last week, so we think Scottsbluff is pretty good because we like Seward.
Yeah.
Do we know enough about Gehring and McCook yet?
No.
Because that
Played
one seems
well.
interesting.
Yeah. McCook's 3-1.
Yeah, and Gehring's
Gehring's
undefeated.
4-0, yeah.
If Gehring can get by that, there's a potential for them. They play Sydney in week 9. They both could be undefeated in week 9 going into that one.
Seeding will be interesting in that one
Any-
because you're basically if you go
Something's
2 and
Walker
if you go 2 and 2
Mhm.
if you split the bracket, like if
Yeah.
you assume that in some order it will be Bennington, Scott, Seward, and Elkhorn North, like you're jockeying for position on the other halves of those
Yeah, you're
brackets.
trying to be somewhere.
Because Seward's schedule after this is pretty manageable.
Yeah, and then, but Elkhorn North is not.
Any interest
So-
in Scott Elkhorn tonight?
Yeah, I think that's it's the first real test ish for Scott. Like their schedule's been light. It gets heavier, a lot harder down the stretch here. That was the runner up in my game of the week, I guess, this week. I didn't put any Class A games on there this week for those of you that don't think I like to get out of Omaha. So I think that one could be a little bit challenging just because the way Elkhorn plays, the ball control and just kind of grind it out. But I think Scott has too much athletes on the edges and stuff. And Van Dyke's pretty good quarterback. So Elkhorn North looking ahead. I mean, they have a game against Blair tonight, and then Elkhorn, Scott, then have Gretna East and finish at Bennington. Just
So
like
got it.
they finished at Bennington last year too.
So Elkhorn North has. I mean, that's pretty challenging.
Yeah,
down the
it's
stretch
not
too.
easy.
Yeah.
I would agree. What do you think happens tonight with Central and West Side?
I think it'll
Besides
be probably
the fact there's a lot of good athletes.
yeah, there'll be a lot of dudes running around, right?
A lot of D1 guys on that field.
I think it'll maybe be a little bit like the North game.
For them or us?
Both. For like both. Where,
when both teams played North?
Yeah. No, when I'm sorry, their game, it's Central's game against North, where it kind of was close, and then it just like something happens, right? And then bang, and then it popped. The size up front though is maybe, I mean, they're pretty big up front. It's just a matter if they can be disciplined. With Ackerman and Wayne on the edges defensively, can you just kind of pound it up the middle? It might not be a Tate Jenkins night. It might be a Quentin Warren night or something like that, or Christensen running, kind of in between the tackles type of deal. Because Central's linebackers, frankly, they're not as good as they were last year. Like Haney last year was pretty good, or Newsom last year was really good for Central at linebacker. So that's and maybe Eli Johnson has a big night.
He's coming.
Yeah, I think that's probably one where you could see him having a big night because of his size. He's so much bigger, and Central's DBs they're fast, man. They can run.
I like Liggins,
but they're not big, right?
Yeah.
So using his that size to his advantage. Purify could probably have has a height advantage at least on that. It'll be Central's got to get more disciplined. I mean, there's two biggest games this year. They've had their two losses. They've had 20 penalties. Like you just can't do that. So
if you had to project success, when you're looking at some perennial powers that are off to so starts, who's got the better projection, Bellevue West or North?
Oof. Probably North because they can run the ball at least a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like probably North because they can run it. I don't know their district offhand, but they're in the same district. So, I mean, that district is Bellevue West, Omaha North.
I think, and Northeast is in there. I think
Northeast and Southwest.
Northeast is 3-1, but I know what people are going to tell me. They're going to say they haven't played the schedule, but
it's kind of like South Sioux is 3-1 too. And
so is that game? Is Omaha North Northeast? Is that here or?
I don't know. I think
or
probably.
Seacrest.
Well, it depends on where Northwest is playing tonight. No, it's not Seacrest because that's where Miller South's playing.
So Northwest must be on the road because it's at
Northwest.
Yeah. Those two teams, and you throw Southwest in there as the District A5 favorite. Is Bell West and North. They'll play each other. So coming down the stretch will be a big game.
Is that at the end?
I think.
Which one?
North and Bellevue West.
Yeah, week 8. So a couple weeks.
Wahoo, the cream of the crop in C1.
Yeah, they play DC West tonight. DC West has challenged, Ashland Greenwood at the beginning and 500 team, and but I think Wahoo's pretty good. They're good, but hey, what Boys Town did last night and Darian Whitaker, that dude is a
real deal.
He scored every way.
He is the real deal.
No, yeah, kick return, punt return.
I get it. People are going to talk about their schedule.
Yeah,
he clearly is the best kept secret in the state.
Yeah, he's awesome. When I went to their practice, I was like, yeah, that guy. Like that guy is the guy.
How'd you word it on NEB Preps?
I don't know.
You said, yeah, he's different than a lot of guys he's playing against.
Yeah, he just says, but Wahoo's the best team. But Boys Town's undefeated, and they stepped up their first real challenge last night and handled it. So big one in C2 is Oakland Craig at Battle Creek.
If you missed the Team Jack Radiothon last night, make sure you get to Team Jack Omaha or Team Jack or teamjackfoundation.org to get involved. You can still donate right there on the page and get involved with Team Jack Foundation. Make sure you go check it out. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-City, KFOR in Lincoln as well. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. That's Mike Sautter. And we are now diving into Bet On It, presented by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. And don't forget, you can always go down to Lincoln tomorrow. This one's in Omaha, excuse me.
Oh.
All the other good stuff's been in Lincoln so far. This one's in Omaha. It's the Chiefs Sweet Life Trip giveaway tomorrow, September 28th. The drawings every hour from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Winners will get a Yeti cooler and $1,000 in cash. The 10 p.m. drawing is for 2 sweet tickets. That's sweet, S-U-I-T-E, not S-W-E-E-T, although it's probably both. For the Chiefs versus Raiders in Vegas. Includes a 3-night stay at the Palms Resort, airfare for up to $1,200, and spending cash. You must be present to win. Get to warhorsecasino.com for more information.
Sounds like a good time to me.
I want to go to the Raiders' new stadium. I haven't been there.
Let's get out.
Cool.
Let's
You
take a
probably
little road
probably
trip.
lose your mind. Are you a slots guy?
No, I didn't.
Doesn't surprise me because you're cheap.
Yeah. Well,
And that seems
I
a little.
am.
That seems a little carefree for you, like a little willy nilly.
I am. I mean, these glasses I have on are one of the 2 pairs I bought with a coupon code. They got me buy one get one plus 25% off.
Listen, we love a thrifty king.
I got no problems with that.
I haven't gone to the
You
store
should,
this
see,
week
you should
yet.
see me grocery shop.
Yeah, I haven't gone to the store this week yet because I haven't.
It
I
takes,
looked
it
at the
takes me
deals
3
and I'm
days
like,
to make up my
no.
mind.
I was like, nah. Like I looked at the ad, and
Is
I'm
that
like,
better or
not
worse
there.
than when you put stuff into your like fast food cart and then
And I never
never
get
go
it.
get it?
That's
He
pretty
does
tough.
this like every day. He's in his app.
I just
And he's like, oh, I want this. And he's never going to get it.
I was hungry the other day, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to spend money on fast food, so let me pull up the McDonald's app and see how many points I got. I got a free 6-piece nugget, and I just that's all I got.
That
He's good
tied
to
you
go.
over.
I didn't get anything else. I got the free 6-piece nugget.
Give me my free nuggies.
Pulled up in through the drive-through. Guy goes, "Have a good day." I go, "Yep."
It's incredible.
Got me some. I didn't buy a drink. Nothing. No fries. Nothing. Just 6-piece free nugget.
What do
'cause it's
you
on my-
do with 6 chicken nuggets?
You just eat them. I don't. In the car.
Did
you
it,
just
did it
pop
make
'em in.
you? That's the
Did that
type
help
of thing
the
that
hunger?
would make
A little
me
snack.
a little more
It was an
hungry.
Yeah.
afternoon snack.
Hey, so you didn't tell me what you thought. Can Wisconsin score enough?
Oh, I told you no.
No.
I said
I'm talking to
absolutely not.
Sauter.
Oh, he
This
said
is
you
our
can
bet
tell
on-
me.
Our bet on it segment.
No, I don't think so.
Should it be more than 15.5?
Feels like a lot though.
It does.
I don't know.
I don't know if it feels like a lot, but like,
It doesn't feel like a lot.
no. I don't think Wisconsin can score like at all.
So either SC isn't very good, or all of a sudden Wisconsin's gonna. I'm trying to figure out how Wisconsin's gonna score 15.5.
And I mean, how many do you think?
I know you laugh when I say
No,
that, but normally when I do, I'm pretty serious.
I laugh because it's probably true. So the total's 50.5,
Oh, that's low.
which means they don't think
Wisconsin's
scoring at all, basically.
They're scoring 10 or under. Maybe.
Oh, that's not true.
14.
So 50.5 at a 15.5 point spread. What is that? What's the implied odds there? 38 to
30 to 14, you get there,
well,
right?
that's the under 30.
No, I know, but
yeah.
I'm just saying, like, start there.
I mean, it's out there too.
So like 37-14 covers and yeah, I mean, okay, that you can think it's
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So the total's not that low.
the total's not low.
I do think the line's a little low. I think USC might win this by like 3 touchdowns plus.
Like, just think, 38-14 is only 52.
Yeah, you're right.
What did USC put
Yeah.
up against Michigan last week? It was like
30,
No, 20.
20.
That was
20,
23-20, right?
Yeah.
But I think Michigan's defense is
Was it 23-20?
Significantly better.
no 24, 27-24 they lost.
Yeah, those three.
I think
mean,
Michigan's defense
And
is,
USC didn't have a pulse until the second half.
yeah, I think Michigan's defense is significantly better than Wisconsin.
41-10.
Michigan's defense is legit.
Yeah, they're
which
really
is
good.
which is why that total against Minnesota is only 35.
And
I can't throw the ball.
Now, see, that's more indicative. The line, Michigan's favored by 10,
Mhm.
and the total's still 35 and a half.
Yeah.
Apparently, with a 50 being, and I'm not saying 50 is huge,
40,
but
it's like 41-10.
people assume then the spread would be bigger.
Is
It would only be
50 and a
15,
half?
15 and a half.
Oh,
So
the
the
spread,
spread
yeah.
is 15.
So
and a
they're
half, so total.
assuming
assuming
Wisconsin's going to score a little bit.
Yeah.
Like almost, yeah. They're saying what 3 touchdowns basically.
And I'm
then?
like, how?
21. Yeah.
like they're at least 17. They're saying they're going to score 17.
And maybe he'll be better, right? Obviously, thrust into
Has he ever been better?
I think it's
into a start with Van Dyke getting hurt, kind of.
feeling good about that one.
Now you have had time.
30.
A little bit more. Had a little bit more time.
14 or something.
I think this is a 3 touchdown win.
38
for
to
USC.
14.
Does Michigan State? Does Coach Smith have anything for Ohio State catching? What was it, Shane? 23?
Yeah, I thought it was like 20.
Mm.
20.
I don't
That
think
sounds
so.
about right.
I don't think so.
No.
Really? Doesn't that seem
It
low?
was a tough loss last weekend.
The number low. It seems low.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he has anything for him. I think Ohio State's going to cover that number.
Do you? It
Yeah.
seems like it
Oh,
should
I
be
see.
with a team like that. It seems like it should be higher.
Yeah. I don't know. Michigan State really hasn't played anybody.
I think that
I don't
I
know how
got to
good Boston
double check.
College is.
It seems like
It's
you
23
should
and a
check
half. It's 23 and a half.
That's doesn't
the right
seem like
number.
very much.
I don't know. 24 points in conference play. Like that's a pretty.
Dude, how about Miami laying the 17 tonight? Would you have thought that in the preseason?
No, because Virginia Tech was supposed to be
No.
good. No, they're not.
And I would have expected Miami to choke by now, if I'm being honest.
I got to double
might be
check.
for real.
This
I think
morning,
they
the
are.
Illinois Penn State line was
I got it at 19.
clearly
Right
ballooning.
now.
Ballooning.
Yeah.
It's 19 and a half?
Yes.
That's way too much.
Now,
Well,
I don't
that's-
know, man. I could see Illinois getting boat race.
You're in a
I'm
you're in
dead
a
serious.
classic letdown game spot.
Is it a night game?
No.
Yeah, it's a 6:30.
Oh, I thought it was 2:30. Is it 6:30?
6:30.
Oh, that's
Man, I'm gonna
different.
have to drive fast. I pray we're on time.
drive.
Yeah,
Where you at?
We're scheduled to land back in Lincoln at
To get
5:50.
home.
if you're right about how Illinois was viewing Nebraska last week, this is a really easy spot to be let down emotionally. If you're Illinois, that's how you would get to 3 touchdowns.
I think Illinois is probably better than.
I do too.
No, so they're better than the number, but
No,
that's
then
why.
people are giving.
No,
then people-
I'm probably inclined to agree with you, but
the
I'm
number's
just telling-
scary because of that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
big for a reason.
It feels like a letdown game situation, like emotionally that they can't get
Like
up.
you think
again.
Vegas doesn't think we're thinking the
guy.
same thing?
I'm
God,
just
that guy, he's starting to suck. I used to really
Starting
like
to
him.
suck?
I hate listening
see
to
what-
him now
Oh, you mean just talking?
as a person. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
he's talking
hey.
about. I used to like be one of his biggest fans. I used to defend that guy up until like
New York Jets 7.5.
he's
Against
just not having it.
Broncos.
now.
that dude sucks.
as a person. As a person.
Oklahoma Tyler's going to be steaming, and I talked to him
Will he
yesterday
be
on
in?
my way to Nebraska City.
Bro, they,
I don't see how Oklahoma beats Auburn.
their offense is not good.
I don't.
It wasn't good. Okay, it wasn't good last
You're hedging because Auburn
My
turns the
hesitancy
ball
is-
over.
Well, because they turn the ball over, and I think they're dysfunctional. I think Auburn's dysfunctional.
I just don't.
So, like, that's my because I'm not. I agree with you on Oklahoma, but I am not sold on Auburn. So that could open things up for
Auburn's
Oklahoma.
just struck out like coaching wise. It's just been a mess.
You know who they should have hired? Jamie Chadwell. Everybody should have hired Jamie Chadwell.
Yeah.
Everybody, except Nebraska.
Did you see UNLV still favored over Fresno?
So, did you hear the story about the Circa
weird.
CEO?
Yeah.
The Circa CEO is like, "Hey, here's $100,000 if you want to keep him," and they're like, "Nah, we're cool."
Yeah.
That's weird. That whole situation's weird.
Well, I
Hey.
mean, big boosters have been taking care of programs now forever.
Yeah.
But now with like the Portnoy's of the world, they're just saying it out
Publicly.
loud.
Yeah, because why not? It's not. You
I
don't have to deliver it in a bag anymore.
Do you feel like he should $1 to $3 million that he said he would put up should get you better than Orgy?
Yes.
Maybe he just now declared. Maybe he
I
just
think
now
he's
told
just
him.
saying it now.
I mean, I would imagine
No.
you should find a quarterback that can complete a forward pass in the year 2024. If for $1 million in college, I feel like you should find a guy that can complete a pass.
What happens? What happens with Louisville and Notre Dame?
That
At Louisville.
that's
I think it's at Notre Dame.
That was at Louisville.
outside of Bama.
Is that not a
Georgia.
home game for Notre Dame?
I'm checking right now. Outside
I'm
of Bama,
99% sure.
it is in It's at Notre Dame.
Oh, okay. Notre Dame probably.
That's my favorite game of the week outside of Bama, Georgia.
I'm
is
saying
Notre Dame.
I saw some Xavier Watts stuff about how good he's playing this year, and it's not the interceptions. Just that dude might be working his way to a first round.
Notre Dame's a 7-point favorite. I think Notre Dame wins. I think Northern Illinois was a blip. I think the rest of it's who they really are.
Arkansas or A&M?
Arkansas forever. Bleep A&M.
This dude loves him some Trevor.
Okie State versus K-State. Last one.
K-State.
Play Zane Flores.
Ooh. We'll be back with Matt Vrzal coming up next. Wrapping up the show here on a Friday with our guy Matt Vrzal on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Verz, what's going on?
Not much, boys. How we doing?
Oh, the voice is still strong. How'd last night go?
You didn't have to say much.
We had a generate. Well, I went in blind because somebody told me they were going to help me get the film.
I couldn't get our team didn't run late.
But hey, I got two awesome. I got a bunch of meat from a guy that was intended to give meat to somebody else. So I got these big 2 tomahawks.
Uh-huh.
I got beef bacon.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's going to be delicious.
Yeah.
You didn't need film for that game.
Wow.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Hey,
I'm so excited to make those two ginormous tomahawks.
So what did you think about Miller North and Bryan last night?
You know, but it got out of hand pretty quick. And we lost the generator. So from second quarter through the third, we didn't have any broadcast at all.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then when we came back in the fourth, it was, they took advantage of some things in the special teams. They had a kick return touchdown, block punt touchdown, interception touchdown. So, you know, Bryan made some errors that they couldn't make in the game. Bryan's got some nice sized kids though, man. And I really like Hanson. Like he's
I do too. I like him.
He works hard.
I like him too. He's 4 kids and he works his tail off.
Everything based off of discipline. He kind of made, as we talked to him before the game, he had said some things that didn't resonate until the game started. They had a gentleman that didn't play the first quarter, and I'm guessing he may have missed the meeting.
Yeah.
And that would be why he did, because he said, he's like, hey, we're trying to do it right here. Like, we don't miss meetings. And he kind of looked, and then the game starts, and I'm like, oh, man, this player probably going to be pretty good. And then the first quarter, I was like, I wonder why they're not playing. And then it was like, oh, yep, got it. That was the message. I was like, understand where we're going. So, you know, for him, it's just continuing to they're very young. Got great sized kids though, and you know, playing hard and all that stuff. So you just gotta build it.
Yeah. I can hear
vultures come in when you get good teams and they start calling your kids.
Yeah, I can hear it in your heart because you were with me at Northwest, right? Like you just want those guys that are invested to be rewarded. He's for his kids, man.
Oh yeah, good dude.
How about the explosiveness from Miller North? You like the athletes as good as advertised?
They do have some good athletes, yep. And they're, you know, they have a kid that plays for them, Skylar Rostern, who works for us there at Paisan. So it was good to see him before the game and just a little squatty by. But their line, they get after it pretty good. And then, you know, they got time to throw, and they do have weapons out there they can use. And speed is definitely showcased. I think the Vermont kid touched it twice, scored twice.
Hey, he can run.
And then I really liked how Newberry, they had him playing outside backer.
Yep.
Just reacted well to the ball, you know, and kind of let the natural instincts just play. Sometimes you get guys that are very robotic and they almost have to be told, hey, once this happens, you can go. That isn't the way with him. He saw it and then he went and attacked it. So that was cool. But yeah, and it's always good, you know, when Nebraska gets the Nebraska kids locked down. Like I know that probably sounds lame to the youth, and we got to get 17-star guys in, but sometimes you just got to get the local kid that's just a good athlete. He's going to be a project, and in 2 years you're going to see him and be like, good get, Coach Rule and crew, good get.
I'm curious, Verz, what you thought about Henry Rayberg, 75 for Miller North.
Really liked him. Feet were good. Size is good. He's pretty lean for his weight.
Yeah,
so that's always a good thing.
He's got
the room to build on that frame, and he just played hard. You know, those games sometimes it's tough to continue to play hard. the snaps he was in, he got after it. So another guy, take a good look at him. It's a development guy that, could reap some rewards in 2-3 years.
He's got a boomer for a leg as a punter too, by the way. I don't know if they punt.
That was my favorite part of the night, though. the big boys were all featured in the kicking game. Brian's punter, lineman, Brian's kicker, lineman, and then North didn't punt, but I saw Big Dog pumping some in the warm-up. So I was like, yep, this is my kind of game.
Hey, speaking of which, front, you and I have talked about this a ton, the symbiotic relationship between a running back and his offensive lineman and seeing holes and helping you guys out and then trusting the play and all of that. What are you seeing from Nebraska's run game? Do they feel like they're on the same page to you? Is it just going to be a power thing? Is it an evolution thing? Like, how are you looking at the relationship between running back and offensive line so far for Nebraska?
It's a little bit. It's why I've asked you to come over the past 2 weeks to ask questions for you, but you big time to me in both of those situations.
Hey, by now I've gotten the point. So if you tell me one more time, then I'm just telling you, don't do that. Okay. I hear what you're saying.
For me, I think Nebraska's offensive line has to get their attitude guy back. I don't know what's happened behind the scenes, but they function a lot better to me with Mazuka going. They have a little bit more edge. They got a little bit more chip on their shoulder. And you know as well as I do, like if I roll out with Big 8 somewhere,
yeah,
lips a little bit looser, feel a little bit more confident in myself. We get in any situations, I have no fear. So yeah, I like that. I like being around those people because they don't think that way, but my dumb ass does. I was like, yeah, we might get in one, but I got the baddest dude in the bar, so hey, careful now. But I like, there is a good relationship with that. The thing that I love about Nebraska's running backs is that the hole doesn't have to be a 2-yard hole. They know what a gap is, and they will hit it and split it. And they know they're going to get hit. Like they'll dive in there and they'll go. So now if I'm the lineman, I'm like, hey, we didn't have the best of outings against Illinois. Probably got brought down to earth a little bit from where we were. But now it's time for us to make life a little bit easier for these guys. Like our goal is that they don't get touched for 4 yards. That's what we got to kind of step up our game to. And so we got to attack. We got to deliver the blow in that initial 2-yard range when we're contacting the defensive lineman, then get movement, and then get that kind of stuff going to just protect these guys. They've done a lot for us. We got to do a little bit more for them.
Bruce, what do you think about Gunner at left tackle in relief of Turner Corcoran?
He did good. He made some young guy mistakes. We on the overtime intentional grounding, we probably got lucky. We didn't also get called for a hold. He got beat on that. But to get thrown into the situation and do the things he did, I think it was a good day for the young man. He's going to make those mistakes. Okay, That's going to happen. But overall, he played well. For what I thought he would be. And so to have him get thrown in that, and sometimes it's great when you're just thrown in there because you don't have time to think. You don't have time to panic. You don't have time to be nervous. You just kind of go in and go. And he did some good things that they can accentuate, and he did some things that they need to work on. And I'm sure, Coach Raiola will address those this week in his manner that I really like how he addresses things, and they'll get those fixed.
Hey, Matt, let me flip over to the other side of the ball. You spend enough time with Danzy and a lot of these good defensive minds. How important do you think trusting how guys fit and understanding leverage lends itself to good tackling?
They're in lockstep. It was the first time in a long time Nebraska's defense, I think level by level, you lost trust, right? So the safeties didn't trust linebackers didn't trust the linemen. Linemen were having a day. Sometimes you get in one. Okay.
Yeah, they let them play in there, didn't they?
They did, which is the way you want it.
Yeah, I agree because Nebraska's offensive line benefited from that too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Joel Geski's kid, our former teammate, he's a prick. Like he's got no problem getting in there and mixing it up. And so they got after it pretty good. But that was the first time in a long time where you saw a distrust in levels, right? And it was the first time, Coach Rule had a statement that still resonates with me. In a presser, they asked him, they said, what do you want to accomplish this year? And he said, I want to win a one-score game. Okay. The reason to me that he said that was just to cleanse it from the palate, because after all of them that we've had, we've found every way possible to lose them. Okay. So some old habits came back up. Okay. We're in one here. It's not going the way we thought it would go. I got to do more than just my job. I got to do too much. Okay. If I see a back in the backfield, skinny ass number 13 in the backfield, there is zero chance he is going to hit Ty Robinson.
Yeah.
Okay. So if my guy wants to try to cruise through there and get himself a little touchdown and flat, guess what? There's a 5-yard range in there where I can knock you on your ass, and that's what I'm going to do. And then when the ref looks at me, he's like, "Why'd you do that?" I'm like, "I thought he had the ball. He just laying there. He doesn't have the ball though, ref. He's not catching it." And now I make Altmaier go somewhere else with it, right? But then we lost one of your favorite terms. We lost eye discipline on tight ends in crucial situations, third downs, touchdowns. But that's just a lack of trust. You got to trust the guys in front of you because you can't do more than your job.
Verge, you feel good about a bounce back this week at Purdue?
I bet on them. So, yeah.
All right. We'll take it. We'll take it. That's our guy, Matt Vrzal, former Husker, owner of Paisan Pizzeria. Verz, we appreciate it as always.
Oh, man.
We'll see you in a little bit.
All right, buddy.
That's the week here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Make sure you check out hurrdatsports.com to order the new Omaha Hockey Yearbook now through October 7th on pre-order. And make sure you tune in on Monday to hear me and DB back on Hurrdat Sports Radio.